Tap, 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 tap. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Arvanauts, and welcome, of course, to folks who are here that might be new to the channel, and welcome to Bag of Giving. We are here with the second charity event of Bag of Giving, and I'm very excited to hand things over just in a moment to the person who's going to be managing these festivities. But just before I do that, a couple of quick notes about this. Bag of Giving is a charity organization, or foundation, I guess, that has been established by two friends of mine, Brent and Kerry, a Canadian writer, and Michael R. Underwood, an American writer, both of speculative fiction. And of course, Mike is also the co-host of the podcast Speculate, which I run along with Brandon O'Brien and Mike on with various things on this channel and elsewhere, which is an actual play podcast. But Bag of Giving is essentially a series of one-shots with authors and various other folks from across the speculative fiction and adjacent communities, including gamers and other folks like that, who have come together to benefit various charitable foundations. And today, and I will allow Mike to speak more about this, is for the Maryland Food Bank. And we're going to be keeping a running donation total of this today. Right now, I believe the total that was set was the goal is to try to reach 100 for the end of the session today, and I will try to keep a running total of that as this session is continuing. So I am excited to be able to do that and to see whether we can get to that 100 by the time we get to the end of today's session. Today's session of Bag of Giving is Court of Blades, but we will have more sessions of Bag of Giving coming up over the next few months. And if you type in the command, first of all, bag, that will give you some information about this organization. But if you also type in the command next bag, that will show you the next game that we're going to be doing here. And you can do that by getting updates from Brandon's newsletter, and that there gives you information about how to sign up for that newsletter and get information about that. And if you want to know more about the game that's being played today, Exclamation Point Court will give you information about that, so you can know more about this really cool game, which I'm excited to watch being played, actually, called Court of Blades. Please spread the word about this. Please let everyone know about the show and about this event, and I am very excited for it. And so now I am going to unmute myself and apologize unreservedly for anyone that I no doubt accidentally interrupted because I can't hear them yet. And now I'm going to unmute them so that I and you can hear them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to slide on over to reveal the incredible crew in front of you and Bag of Giving's Court of Blades event. And I'm going to hand things over to one Mr. Michael Underwood. And Mike and players, have a good session. Please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Arv, for hosting Bag of Giving here on your channel. We really appreciate you kind of sharing your platform with us as we kind of get this series rolling. So I'm going to pull up my scripts here so I don't forget anything, since this is the first time I'm doing the MC part here. So as Greg said, I'm Michael R. Underwood. I'm an author, podcaster, and co-host of Speculate, along with Greg and Brandon O'Brien. But here I am I'm appearing as the co-founder of Bag of Giving, which is a charity actual play series that was co-created by Brandon, Kerry, and myself. So a quick little bit about Bag of Giving, and then I'll ask our wonderful players to introduce themselves, and we'll proceed from there. Bag of Giving came together with two specific goals in mind: bring together fellow creatives to have some fun and put a bit of good out into the world. On the having fun side, we're really excited to get a lot of really positive responses from people, because without players, we don't have games. And we're excited to showcase tabletop role-playing games and other storytelling games that could use some more love from like new releases and indies. Court of Blades here is a game that was kickstarted to some good success, but is not out in kind of its full incarnation yet. So it's fun to be able to send some love there, because it's a game I've really enjoyed personally. And on the doing good side, it's really fun to play with people, but we were hoping to also kind of get something more out of the game, so that the fun would encourage and excite people to, if they're possible, if it's possible for them, to open their wallets and kind of send some love and send some money to worthwhile charities and causes. So you can find stuff about Bag of Giving at bagofgiving.org. And I believe that we've got folks using the commands in chat to make sure that everybody has the links there. And very briefly, I want to talk about the charity we're supporting this month, which is the Maryland Food Bank. I live in Maryland, and so over the last few years, I've given a few times to the Maryland Food Bank, and I've been getting kind of their donor magazine and updates and things, and been really impressed by their work. Since 1979, the Maryland Food Bank has been supporting the hungry and fighting to end food scarcity in Maryland. They support hundreds of shelters, soup kitchens, food pantries, and faith-based organizations through regular food donations, and support the community through initiatives like nutrition education and data-driven reports to help raise awareness about food insecurity. You can learn more and donate at marylandfoodbank.org at mbfoodbank.org. And I will make sure that we have that link in the chat, because if you donate today or anytime this month, but today, because if we can, I'd like to maybe do a draw for a winner. I will communicate with Brandon on the side to see if we can do that. But if you donate today or anytime this month, you will be entered to win a bunch of something from a bunch of different prizes. We've got novellas from Jan Hemlock's 2021 novella program, copies of songs from the Axe and Fiddle, which is an expansion to Fall of Magic, and a signed and personalized copy of the season 1 collection of my Stabby Award winning, finalist, didn't win, alas, Stabby Award finalist Genre Not series. So that, of course, will come from me. And then we've got some other prizes that were donated by other folks. So to enter, you pick the charity. So that's going to be Maryland Food Bank or some other food bank or local organization that's fighting food insecurity. If you have one that's near you that would like to support, donate what you can through their website, and then get a screenshot of your proof of donation and make sure to kind of protect, don't dox yourself to us. That's not necessary. You just need the organization and how much you've given. That's all we need to know from you. And you're going to email it to contact@bagofgiving.com. And for every $5 Canadian or equivalent that you've donated, you're going to get one entry to the giveaways. And then we'll do our giveaway draws. Hopefully, we'll be able to do one or two during the stream. I'm going to coordinate with Brandon on that. We're still kind of managing the backend stuff. And if not, then you'll want to keep an eye on your email box, because then we will email the winners of the giveaways by the end of the month. So that's some stuff on Bag of Giving. And we have contact@bagofgiving.org. Yes, thank you very much to Triffity Mats in the chat. That's where you're going to want to send your receipts. And we have a ticker that I believe Greg is maintaining. Our goal for today is a modest goal of $100 Canadian that we're hoping to raise ideally during the session, if not then over the course of this month. If you all would like to completely blow that away in the spirit of giving, then that would be rad. Of course, in December, we have A Christmas Carol, where the rich must be threatened and terrorized into opening their wallets. For everybody else, we probably don't have to be scared so much, because we know what it is to struggle and have to support each other. So that is all of that. That's my big preamble. And thank you all for staying with me on that. Now we're going to get to the really fun stuff. So we are playing Court of Blades today, and I'm very excited to be joined by a dashing retinue of swords people, scoundrels, academics, and magicians. And I am going to type really quickly so they all know what order I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in. And with Christiana.
Hello, I'm Christiana Ellis. I am a writer and podcaster, amongst other things, and I am familiar with gaming in my own streams. I stream Dungeons and Dragons and Root, the role-playing game, on my Twitch channel at Christiana Ellis, but I'm very excited to be here today.
Hi, everyone. I am Brent Lambert, science fiction and fantasy author and editor. I actually got to play with Mike, I think 2019, with Scum and Villainy for Star Wars. So I haven't had as much tabletop time since then, but it's great to be back.
I'm Sheree, or C.L. Clark. I am the author of The Unbroken and numerous other sci-fi fantasy short stories, as well as a sci-fi fantasy editor I have not actually done a whole lot of tabletop gaming, so I am excited, and you guys are going to witness this live. So be kind, but hopefully we should have some fun.
Hello, I am Keri C Byrne. I am a writer, editor, publisher, and arts organizer. I'm the publisher of Augur Magazine and the co-founder of AugurCon, repping our Canadian spec fic side over here. And I run a weekly D&D homebrew, and that has been running for the last just over a year and a half, with a number of other Augur folks. That goes so deep you don't even want to know.
Okay, and again, I'm Michael R. Underwood. I write various science fiction and fantasy things, and I stream at twitch.tv/turbotango, which has been a great solace to me because video games are good and they're much better with people, which is part of why tabletop games are great. And so now I'm going to give a quick overview of Court of Blades and the setting that we're using, which is the city of Ilrien. Ilrien is a bit like if you took Venice, Florence, and Paris and kind of smushed them together and then added a bunch of magic. But if we're interested in bringing in other influences in the moment for one shot, this is very much the game that we make of it. And I want to encourage everyone to bring influences and inspiration and add details as they see fit. Court of Blades is a tabletop role-playing game of power politics, gunpowder diplomacy, Renaissance magic, and romantic skullduggery. It is by a couple of drakes, and you can find more about Court of Blades at a coupleofdrakes.itch.io, and I'm going to put that into the chat really quick. As I said, they did a Kickstarter. You can back the backer kit and basically get in as if you had done the Kickstarter. And there is an early access kind of preliminary PDF, which is what we're operating off of. It's very much a complete game, rules complete. They're just commissioning and getting a lot more art and doing a bit of tweaking. So if you like what we do today and you want to start playing Court of Blades tomorrow, you can. And that's how to do so. So in Court of Blades, we take on the roles of retainers in a newly risen house of the Esaltare, which is a group of 6 great houses in the city of Ilrien. The Esaltare are considered to be the most powerful families in the principalities, but amongst them, they have their own pecking order. The first prince, and this is a world where prince is a gender-neutral title, sits at the top of the hierarchy, and every citizen of Ilrien is aware of every house's position within that order. Today, our retinue are playing retainers of House Lavelle, and when you start the game, the house you serve is always at the bottom of that heap because it gives you room to climb and claw your way up. As retainers, you are not born into the house. You are not of Lavelle in terms of like official lineage and nobility, but you have risen from a variety of circumstances. Some of you were born almost literally in the gutter. Some of you come from far off places, lands that are regarded as strange and in one case, actually lost to the world now. Your job is to support the family until it is elected the first house. Since we're doing a one shot, we probably won't get there today, but that's the general shape. Your private goal is going to be to become a titled part of the family through service, securing your legacy, or maybe just leaving the world better or worse off than it was before you, and whatever personal ambitions you have on top of that. So Ilrien is kind of the jewel, is the beating heart of a thread of civilization in a post kind of kingdom world where there was this imperial nation called the Dread Empire, and Ilrien is now a city-state in among a number of successor states. Over the last couple of 100 years, there's largely been a ceasefire. There's not a lot of active war, but there are like skirmishes and revolution or rebellions, and mercenary companies are active. And Ilrien is a coastal city, which is important to know. It's very political, it's very cosmopolitan. There's a lot of trade and communication and presence of other nations, as Ilrien is kind of a major place where you can move and be able to make your your impact on the world. So it's not just like London and there's a bunch of English people. Like it's a place where people are from all over. And this is a game in the Forged in the Dark tradition, which means that it's going to be very collaborative. We're going to play via conversation, and each role is kind of going to make a bigger impact on the fiction, on the play and the story of the world, compared to something like D&D, where the scale is very microscopic. You might make one roll for one sword swing. In Court of Blades, we might make one roll to resolve an entire skirmish between a character and some NPCs, depending on kind of how big the task is. And so sometimes we'll make one roll and that will resolve something. And sometimes I will introduce what's called a clock, where it will take a number of steps to overcome a threat, or I might use a clock to kind of count toward disaster. If, okay, some bad thing is going to happen, I'll put a clock on the table that everyone can see, and then I will add to it as consequences are accumulated from failed rolls. Because in this game, I don't roll dice as a default. You all make rolls to try to impact the world. And if you get a mixed success or a failure, basically the lower results on the die, then I will talk about the consequences. And sometimes the consequences impact you directly. And sometimes I will take those consequences, the kind of weight of consequence, and I will say, okay, well, I'm going to put 2 ticks on this clock. That is, when the clock fills up, this building has burned down, and the thing that you needed from it is now lost. And when there are threats and challenges like that, I will try to be clear and communicate them to you so that you know what the stakes are. And because your characters are dashing retainers, you have the ability to resist consequences. So if I say some bad thing happens or the consequence is going to be something, you can say, I'd like to try to resist that. Or because you all are sworn swords fighting for each other almost as much as the house, depending on your individual preferences, you can protect a teammate and resist something for them. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of the flavor and the setting. And now I'm going to invite our players, if it's okay, in the same order, to introduce everyone to your characters. So for that, you can let us know the character's name, their playbook, their pronouns, and just a little bit about them as you see fit, maybe their look, maybe their attitude, but we'll keep the introductions pretty short, and then we'll get to see the characters in play. So Christiana, if you want to introduce us to your character.
Sure. So Catherine, to initial impressions, is not necessarily the most remarkable that you would ever see in these circles. She dresses well, tastefully, but relatively conservatively, and often has a charming smile when she is making the moves on any, speaking to anyone that she wants something from. But there can be a tendency in other circumstances to have quite an intense, scary glare, because she is playing the Couth playbook, which the logline for that is a streetwise wild card, lucky or dangerous enough to rise from the gutter. She very carefully and determinedly over a period of years climbed the ladder to get to this position of power. She's not going to let it go easily, nor is she done with her climb. She has made a lot of her progress by creating strategic vacancies in the hierarchy above her. Gosh, what a shame that person had such a mysterious accident.
So my character is Dominic, and he is pronouns he, him, and he is the key. So as the key, he is basically the guy who gets all the secrets, hears all the gossip, and also is the one that kind of tries to push people persuasively in the direction he needs them to go. So my character, he's an academic. He's worked his way up the academic ladder. He's kind of handsome. He has kind eyes that you feel like you can trust, and but he has a bit more of a glamorous flair about him compared to most academics, and that's because he's from the Jeweled City. And I'll tell you more about those later.
All right, I will be playing with Rix Valios, who will interchangeably use they and she for pronouns. Rix, also known as the Rake, or behind her back, that whoreson, has risen also like Catherine from the depths of the twist, the slums in Ilrien, coming up through the fighting pits where she happened coincidentally to save a drunk member of House Lavelle who betted against her in the fighting bout, she would like to add. And because she saved him, he was so grateful, and so grateful for the help, but also for her secrecy, that she was able to persuade him to get her into the house for her silence. She is a bravo, which is the sworn sword, quick of wit and unmatched in combat. And now that she's been hanging out in House Lavelle, she's been using her rough edges and charm to enjoy all of the pleasures that the upper class has to offer, from its lovely ladies to its opera houses, its fine food, etc., etc.
Hello. Okay, so I will be playing Kame, who has alternating he/they pronouns. Doesn't need to be they dominant, but should never be he dominant. Kame is our knack, our magic user. So a magical expert gifted with arcane power and knowledge of the hidden world. Kame has traveled to Ilrien to find favor within the houses to gain access to either more powerful magic users than himself, or to gain access to the financial means with which they can access that power themselves. They are also an academic, but have kind of traveled around working with different tutors throughout their life, and looking forward to joining in.
Okay, so this retinue is in service to House Lavelle, whose house words are farsight and foresight. Lavelle is renowned for secrets and discernment. So you've got some sneakiness, you've got some magic stuff going on. Their strengths are intelligence and supply. So they've got good storehouses, they've got quality quartermasters, and they have some of the best spies in Ilrien, above and beyond just Dominic, because as a retinue, you are not all of the notable servants of the house, but you are basically a cell who are operating in pursuit of the house's interests. And hey, I see a note from Arv that we are over a third of the way to our fundraising goal, about a third of the way to our fundraising goal today already. So that is very cool. And we'll come back around and shout out some of these for folks who are okay being shouted out soon. And what I'd like to do to kind of lay the scene here is in this game, we're basically playing the third act of a movie. And so we, as the kind of co-storytellers, are going to detail what has happened in last episode or in the earlier part of the movie. And that will let us kind of begin at a heightened moment of adventure and tension. But I want to let everybody kind of characterize and add detail to a couple of moments. So it's kind of like we're playing Exquisite Corpse, and I've written some prompts. It's not exactly, but I found this to be useful in other games. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give a little bit of intro, and then I'm going to kind of ask a player, how did your character kind of take action, or what did it look like when they did X, as we build out the story that has kind of led us to the first moment of the first scene that we're going to play out in actual play. Does that sound all right with everyone? Mm-hmm. Okay. So each season, your group is given kind of a portfolio of challenges to address, but sometimes things emerge and one or more of you might learn of the moves of another one of the houses of the Esseltare. So Brent, I'm going to ask, how did you learn that your rivals at House Corvetto, the majestic tyrants, how did you learn that they were making moves in the Vine, which is the district of the city that hosts the Arbor and the Granary? So the Arbor has, great apple trees, and it's very kind of picturesque, and there's gardens. And then the Granary is kind of where the city's great stores of grain and wheat are stored. So how do you think Dominic kind of caught wind of the schemes of a rival?
Well, Dominic is prone to choosing students who are well placed in certain areas. So he has one student who isn't academically as sound as everyone else, who happens to work at the granaries, and picked up a little conversation with the Corvettos and mentioned it in passing to me.
Excellent. So you also discovered through maybe some agents of your own that Corvetto were seen moving messages to and from the Vine, including bags of coin and, perhaps to Kamei's interest, esoteric magical trinkets. So Kamei, what technique or ritual allowed you to pierce through the powerful illusions that concealed Corvetto's plans?
So Kamei's magical focus is a pocket watch, because we're just going full on into that aesthetic. So I'm going to say that we leveraged some kind of clockwork mechanism that opened up a gap in the illusion for a specific period of time that was programmed into that clockwork item that was enchanted by Kamei.
Very cool. So with the magical wards defeated, you all as a group tracked the Corvetto retinue to a hidden cave beneath the Arbor, this kind of forest that is harvested. And there are tunnels connecting that hideout to numerous exits throughout the district. So in the groves and near the granary and almost approaching the docks. This retinue of Corvetto had numbers. They had kind of swords. They had sworn swords in backup, but you had the element of surprise and seized your moment. So Christiana, what scheme or distraction did Catherine deploy to keep Corvetto's reinforcements, these extra swords, at bay while the group met them in combat?
So I think that we had established where the majority of these extra hands were hanging out until they were called upon. And they found, as soon as there was an inkling of alarm and they began trying to come out, that smoke grenades exploded in their faces as soon as they emerged from these little like barracks that they were hiding out in. And as they groped around in the smoke, they found that the building behind them had also caught fire.
Exactly what I would expect from a Kuth. Brilliant. So the retinue fought against Corvetto with spell and steel, and it devolved into a fox and hound chase through the caverns and the groves of the Arbor. Sheree, how was it that Rix prevailed in their skirmish with Francesca Corvetto, a renowned bravo and legend with a saber?
Well, obviously, Rix is very, very skilled, but a little bit rougher around the edges. However, she threw a little bit of a wink, a little bit of a smile. It caught Francesca just a little bit off her footing, enough for, was it a lethal fight? Does she have to be alive?
That I think is up to you. Would Rix be the type to leave a rival alive to fight another day, or perhaps
this particular
to be
rival,
turned?
yes. This particular rival, yes, because she's cute. So Rix just kind of distracted and knocked her out, and then might regret that later.
So would Francesca have woken up with a note or some token left by Rix?
Yes, absolutely. A little piece of a like not like a handkerchief, because that's a little bit, well, actually no, it's a handkerchief, but it's like a very crude sort of monogram, just with an R and an X, not like a prescription, but just, you know.
Okay. So with Francesca defeated, the retinue of Corvetto quit the field, leaving you to search the safe house, which had kind of contained their plans, where they were launching some scheme from. And we kind of meet the group as you are left with a coded letter from Ariana Corvetto, who is a knack and spy mistress, addressed to her Blade of the Night, telling them that the schedule had changed and the packages must be delivered immediately so that Lavelle can have its just desserts. The letter is dated yesterday. Whatever this plan is, it has already begun. The dice have been cast. You've driven off Corvetto's hand, but whatever it is that they've done has already begun to play out. Now you must finish unraveling Corvetto's plot and see it foiled for the glory of House Lavelle. So I think we will join the group in a kind of a very clean and kind of carved out and dry underground cavern safe house. There are some like folios. There's a table and some chairs. There's some food if they need to hole up there. And this safe house has like kind of reinforced doors on both sides, kind of one tunnel coming in, one tunnel going out. And you've seized this from this retinue of Corvetto that you've routed. And you have this letter. It is a coded letter. You've already kind of deciphered a fair bit of it, which is how you got that information. But you could maybe spend more time with it if you thought that there was other info that you could glean of it. And you know, based on that letter, that whatever is happening, the timetable is very short. And so this is the phase of play that we call recon or gathering information, where each of the player characters is going to get one chance to make a roll. Now that might be going to a contact, it might be studying the letter, it might be doing like a ritual of divination, it might be scouting out some location based on other information that you've gleaned. Everybody will get to do one recon action for free. If you feel that you need to do more recon before you decide on a plan and go for an engagement roll, then I will start to tick a mission clock because I've communicated that you're on a tight timeline. And so anybody can go first. And what I would just ask is, let me know what approach you're taking to try to gather information. Are you going to a contact? Are you studying something? Are you using magic? And let me know what action you want to use, and then we'll kind of get the ball rolling.
Can we do like a brief, like kind of where the characters' heads are at moment? Like this is how I'm having an emotional reaction to this this situation that we're in right now. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Go for it.
I think that we're dealing with a high stress Kame who is not sure how to prepare for something that we didn't know about. So that is kind of like the headspace that we will be starting with. Not aggressive, but very in his head.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that Rix is like super pumped, super high adrenaline, but has a feeling that folks are going to be like a little bit irritated that she didn't just kill the Bravo now that they see that they're in trouble. But she does have some ideas about how to fix it. But she's very hyped, very yeah.
So that's perfect because Dominic is very annoyed that you left a handkerchief person and like with your initials on it. And he also is, worried about Kame because Kame's stressed out, and he's blaming Rix because you made it more stressful by leaving this handkerchief. And we're all trying to be on the same page.
I think Catherine is certainly not pleased at the idea that we have to defend against some strike headed towards us. But in some respects, although she certainly would not have done what Rix did, there is the element of we have made them angry enough to strike at us, which if we can successfully evade their strike, we can potentially, make another, the time for a parry and riposte, so to speak, to use terms that Rix would appreciate and understand better than any other metaphor I might use. So I think that it's a matter of, we all know what game we're playing. Let's not get panicked because the plan is more or less working. The important element of game theory is to always understand that the other player gets to make turns too. So
While in good headspace. Okay.
so I think I don't know if we're ready. I think Catherine's instinct would be to say, no house gets to make a big move without people on the street hearing something. So trying to go and feel out some of my my contacts to find out like what moves are they making that might be tied into where they would try to be targeting us and what they might be trying to do.
Cool. I think that makes sense to me. I want to check, does anybody want to do something in the space where you are right now before we move forward to another scene? Yeah, sure. And then
Rix is very eager to undo the screw up by saying, well, look, we have this unconscious Bravo from this house, and clearly she likes me. So I could just try and like sway her to give us a little bit more information. Blink, blink.
Oh, is she here? I thought that this was someone that we left behind. Do we have this person as like a prisoner?
I think you routed the Corvetto retinue enough that they were not able to drag Francesca along with them. So you could definitely retrieve her and rouse her using smelling salts or something like that if you would like.
Yeah.
Okay. So then Rix can just go out. She's lying unconscious outside of the cave. Just drag her back inside.
Okay, and I'll tell Rick, please focus on information and not romance. And as I say that, I decide I want to study the letter because being from the Jewel Cities, having to learn many languages was part of our upbringing. So hopefully I can use that to somehow decipher this code that they have.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Kamea takes one look at the Rixa tree and goes, I can't handle this right now, and then goes over to Dom.
Yeah, I think Catherine is content to let Rix have at this Francesca on the basis that it's like whatever we get out of them is probably less valuable to us than just the simple fact that we have her as a prisoner. And so, we'll let Rix do that. And in the meantime, we'll maybe part of the consort would be, this understanding that what are they doing without her? What would they do to get her back? That sort of thing.
Okay. So order of operations wise, it sounds like we can do the conversation with Francesca because the study on the letter will probably take a little bit of time, and we can maybe jump between those if necessary, and then check to see if there's anything else y'all want to do while you're still in that safe house, and then we can jump forward to some hitting the street. Does that sound all right?
Mm-hmm. Can I also add, I don't know how many actions we all have as a whole, but before we leave, we should also just look, dig around in the,
sure.
In the house.
I think if Brent, if you wanted to kind of do a study on the overall room, that would change some of the information that you get versus just studying the letter. Both of those are options. If you wanted to try to cover everything, I think you probably, it might be at a worse position because maybe I think a consequence there would be, it ends up taking time. So that's an option, a couple different ways of thinking about it. You can go beyond the one each. It will just mean that I'm going to put a tick on a clock that you don't want to fill.
Okay.
But this first one, you can definitely get for free. So how would you like to kind of wake Francesca from the unconsciousness that Rix themselves created?
With some delicate slaps on the cheek.
One might call it a caress. No.
But there would also have to be some sort of sharp implement nearby, whether at the throat or at the hip, at the ready, because as we did just get done having some fisticuffs, she's probably pissed at me, but still charmed, obviously, probably, maybe. So slapped awake gently. And then I guess sway would probably be the best. That one's the one for people I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Really?
you could use consort, but it would probably be more risky because your relationship
It's not
with
very
Francesca is very nascent. Now,
Yes.
maybe after a successful sway or two, consort becomes more of an option. Is Francesca bound at this point?
Yes.
Okay, bound and disarmed.
Yes.
Okay. So Francesca kind of comes like, ladies, what? Oh, what do you want?
Hey.
The family will ransom me, surely. And you're good enough with a blade. Maybe you can come over and serve someone worth a damn in this city.
Well, that would be an option, but I have a better idea. I think you think that I'm cute. Why don't you just tell me what I want to know? Just, guys, what do we want to know?
So why don't you go ahead and make, we'll do the first roll, and based on how well the roll goes, I'll kind of shape a bit of role play and we can go do a little bit of back and forth. The better you roll, the more kind of questions and follow-ups you will get in the conversation. And that might be information that she explicitly gives you, and it might be things that you're able to read out of what she does and doesn't say.
Okay.
So you're using sway, it sounds like. And so Rix has 1 in sway.
1 sway. Okay.
So
So 1d6?
You have some options for gaining dice.
Okay.
So you can push yourself, which means you're going to mark 2 stress on the stress track, which is just above harm. And every character has this pool, which lets them kind of push themselves above and beyond their normal capabilities. Because it's a one-shot, I would invite y'all to spend stress very liberally. It costs 2 stress to gain a bonus die or bonus effect on your roll. In addition, somebody can assist you. And if they assist, they're going to spend 1 stress and tell me how they are helping Rix achieve what they're kind of looking for. The other things you can do is you could ask for a lady's favor, which is an equivalent to Blaze in the Dark, the Devil's Bargain, where I will offer you a bonus die, but it comes with a price or some kind of consequence or like a string.
I would be willing to help by kind of just being present in the background, the sort of like the looming presence of a possible bad cop to match your good cop.
Okay. Yeah, I think based on what we've established for Catherine, that makes sense. So Christiana, you would spend 1 stress on Catherine, and then Sheree, you're going to get 1 bonus die from that. And then you can either push yourself for a bonus die, or you can accept a lady's favor. With lady's favor, you can ask for it. I can suggest it, and then you get the choice to decide whether you want to take it. So you don't have to take it as soon as you ask for it.
I think I will push myself to be extra charming. So I add 2 little stress blocks. And so that makes for 3 die total.
Yep. And so often a gather information roll will be a fortune roll, which doesn't take position or effect. I think in this situation, because you are trying to sway a Bravo of a rival house, there is a bit of risk here. And I think the types of risk that this could be would be things like you have to talk to her a long time to get any useful information because she's stonewalling you, or that your verbal fencing will have an impact on what she thinks about you. Like consequences might start filling up a clock that is like, she's going to hunt you down and destroy you, depending on how the rolls go. So that's kind of communicating what the risk is. I think this is going to be a risky roll, and you're going to have standard effect. Normally you would have lesser effect because Corvetto is a house of a higher tier than you, but you did just beat her in a duel, and so you've damaged her pride, and therefore your words are able to slip through her guard more readily. So now you can roll 3d6 in the roll20, and you're looking for a 6. If you can, that will be a full success. A 4 or a 5 is a success at a cost, and a 1 to 3 is just a failure. So you want your highest die to be a 6, ideally, if not a 4 or a 5. All right, fingers crossed. Our first roll. All right, so I see 5, 1, and a 2. So with a 5, you get a mixed success. And what that means is that you're going to get some information, but then I'm going to inflict a consequence. And if it's a consequence that you don't like, you can roll. You can decide to resist, or someone else can decide to resist. What I would ask is, what is the most important piece of information that you want to get out of Francesca for this conversation?
What do you think, guys?
Well, the letter that we decoded said there was like a title, right? Like the thin blade of the dark or something like that. What was it? What was it?
Blade of the Night. And
Blade of the Night.
Blade and Night were both capitalized, which is what kind of cued you to the idea that this is like a specific title of someone or a group.
Yeah, like I feel like I want to know who that is.
Or do we want to know what they were doing? Like,
well,
I said, the plan begins now, right?
I mean, both ideally, but you know, like we want to know both of those things. So
I say Blade.
Who's the Blade? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I will lead with that then. That will be the primary.
Do you have the kind of wording of like specifically how Rix asked us, and that'll let us get kind of back into character?
Sure. So Rix is got this little cranky other Bravo who's being pissy and pride hurt, obviously with like stereotypical Rixian charm. It's like, hey, so you're a pretty good Blade, but I don't think you are the Blade of the Night. Tell me why somebody else who is obviously not as charming and skilled as you gets that kind of title. Maybe you should talk to me about that.
You flirt like you fight. Jabs all day and all
Why,
night.
thank you. Thank you very much. That's such a compliment, considering that I got you on your back.
Well, and here I remain. If I'm going to tell you anything, I need assurances on your honor as a Bravo that I will be ransomed back to Corvetto, and that this verbal assault will be the only harm that I carry away from me aside from this shoulder wound.
Well, that I can definitely attest to. And then I have to like give like a look across my shoulder to Wildcat.
I it's like,
okay.
Yeah, so for anyone just listening, there's a general like, yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay.
And Francesca says, you know how the game is played. It's not always a hand directly. And if you are operating in the shadows or the lower parts of the city, then a proxy is needed. And it's not always the best call for me to dirty my hands directly in doing business. So the Blade of the Night, it's a name for a mercenary.
Mm.
They're from Calray, called the Dusk Knives.
Oh.
And here's where I'm going to inflict a consequence. If you want to get more out of her, you're going to have to basically take more time in talking with her and basically continuing defense verbally to outmaneuver or impress her enough to get more information. And you kind of learn that quickly as the conversation continues. You know, if you're asking about what the plan is, then as the kind of conversation goes on, she's going to become more playful. and you're getting the kind of signal to noise of like information you need to flirtation trends toward flirtation. And so you're not getting information. Like, so maybe that's fine for Rix, but for CL, the player, and for the group, I'm saying that I'm going to put a tick on a 6-segment clock. And you could accept that and get more information, or you can basically take limited information. Normally on a roll of this type, you would get a follow-up, but the consequence is that I'm going to limit your effect.
I feel like Rix is warming up to this just as Francesca is, and they're like, hey, what's up? And then the player, Sheree, would be happy if someone's like, guys, let's go. We'll wrap it up.
Well, I was thinking that since Catherine is planning to kind of feel out her own contacts like out on the street, she might just not wait around for everybody, right? Like, so even if Rix was going to continue, it might have been like, all right, well, I've heard enough of that. I don't need to stick around for their makeout session. So I might leave before the rest of that happened. I don't know.
It would probably be me that would say something.
Yeah, this is probably a good point to jump over to Dominic and see what he's been able to glean. Brent, did you have an idea of where his focus in study is going to be?
Yes, on the deciphering the rest of the coding in the letter. So he kind of overhears what Francesca tells Rix, and that cues him into the possibility that this letter may be in a code that the mercenary might understand.
Okay, cool. So you can make a study here. I think that's going to have the greatest effect. In this game, there's both survey and study. Study is more for like sustained, deliberate, analytical work. Survey is more like gut check, quick scan a crowd for an assassin, situational awareness kind of stuff. So study, you're on good footing here. What is Dominic's study rating?
He has 1.
Okay, so you're going to start with 1 die. And again, like the sway, you can spend 2 stress to push for an extra die, and or someone could assist you if maybe Kamei is helping here.
I was just going to suggest maybe Kamei could give you some arcane assistance with this.
Yeah, I have to imagine that at least some of how magic works is off of formulae and systems and codes that would let them kind of be of assistance here.
Yeah, I think especially for Kamei, because I really like Kamei as like a systematic magic user and like a science magic user. Yeah, so you can actually choose, Brent. I have 2 in channel and 2 in study. So either I can join you in study and we can like amp that up, or I can support us magically. I kind of like the channel idea though, because then we can also like maybe work in like, is there any magical remnant associated with this letter? Is there any way we can like trace it back to some kind of magic user on the other side? Because like, I don't know if we leave like magical traces, but it seems like there's a lot of like perceiving magic in this world, in the language at least. So yeah, I like the idea of supporting with some magic.
So one of the other teamwork rules in this game is a group action. So if y'all agree on study or channel, you can both roll your dice pool with that action, and one person is going to lead the action. And so if you've got 2 and 1, you basically get 3 dice, 3 chances to get a 6. But for each character that rolls below a 4 as their highest roll, the person who led the group action is going to take 1 stress, as they're kind of having to try to pull things together, or are just taking the stress of trying to coordinate. So either of you could lead that action if you like. Whoever leads the action, it's going to count as that character's recon action. So that's for y'all to decide between yourselves. But you could also just have someone roll and someone assist.
I think I could take the lead on it, and then if it gets bad, I'll take the stress.
Okay, so each of you is going to roll. This is going to be a fortune roll, so it doesn't have position or effect. If you have something that would impact effect, though, do let me know, because that will impact the quality of information that you get.
Okay.
So each of you could push, but if you're doing a group action, you cannot assist one another. because
Okay.
you're already doing that by rolling your own dice.
Right. So we both roll 1, and then if she gets below a 4, or if they get below 4, I'm the one that takes the hit.
Yeah, so if for each character that rolls below 4, so if Kamei rolls a 6 but Dominic rolls a 3, you would take 1 stress for 1 character failing.
Okay, so Kamei, Dominic would take it, not Kamei.
Right. If Dominic
Cool.
is leading the action, then Dominic would take that stress.
Okay, well, Dominic will take the stress then.
Okay. So
Already stressed, so.
yeah, do either of you want to push, and or would you like a lady's favor?
I feel like the letter's important, so I'll push.
Okay,
Yeah,
so if you
I will push too, but also just on a story level because of that stress, I feel like it makes sense.
so go ahead and mark the 2 stress for each of you for the push, and you'll get to add 1 to your die pool. So is this going to be study?
Study, yes.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead and do that. So you'll take whatever your study rating it is and add 1, and then go ahead and roll in the roll 20.
All
And
right.
we'll look at both sets of rolls and pick the highest individual roll.
Okay, so 2d6.
Yes, I believe so. If you've got study of 1 plus 1
Yep.
for push.
Whoa.
Okay.
Look at that.
Cool.
Ah,
So that's
yes.
2, 4, 5 for Kamei and a 5 and a 6 for Dominic. So that 6 will get to apply, and that's a full success. So you're going to get more information, and Dominic does not take any stress. So I think with Kamei's assistance, you're able to like maybe make faster work of it, or you're decoding different parts of it. So
Okay. This
you're
is
gonna
perfect because me and Kamei already have like a good relationship. So, okay, so success.
So-
Academics hanging out in a corner.
So you can ask for a variety of different types of information, and in this game there's gather information questions per playbook. And so one thing that you can use if you'd like, and I think for a one shot I'm happy to be more flexible. So for the key, it could be, how can I hurt them? What do they want most? Who's most dangerous here? What do they intend to do? How can I get them to something? Are they telling the truth? What's really going on here? You already have that ability that lets you know if someone's lying.
Yeah.
For something like this, it's less that they're lying and more that it's in code.
Right.
So you're going to get a direct question of just like some information you want that might be in the letter, and then you're going to get a follow-up question that's either more on along the same lines or something else that you'd like to know.
Well, I want to know, what do they intend to do? I feel like
Great.
that's the biggest.
So as you kind of talk back and forth, there's allusions and half talk and like literary references that are being used in here. And so chatting back and forth, you come to understand that Corvetto is placing cursed grain that is going to then be made into bread and other pastries. And this is a city that lives and dies on bread. It's very like Paris, where baguettes everywhere. So the Bakers Guild is a non-noble guild that is directly responsible for feeding the city. They are the kind of the food industry, and they kind of also have some municipal duties that they're required to do. So you learn that Corvetto has that their sorcerers and magicians have cursed several sacks of wheat that are being snuck into the stores of are to be snuck into the stores of several bakeries and then baked into bread. And what that will do is it will basically just make people crappy to each other. Like the food is simultaneously agitating and not nourishing. And the intent that you get from it is, because House Lavelle has a strong tie with the Bakers Guild, that they wanted to do this and then try to frame Lavelle, because, well, Lavelle has failed to protect the Bakers Guild, or that the Bakers Guild has failed here, and that is going to lower Lavelle's status by association. And you'll get a follow-up if you want to either dig deeper or ask something else?
I'm thinking, okay, so we have a mercenary and we have cursed grain. So
you know what and how, but that information that you got from the first answer does not give you which bakeries, but you could use your follow-up on that.
I think that would probably be appropriate. Let's see which bakeries do they intend to target.
Okay, so there are 3 targets that are presented as options, and this is where you discover, oh, okay, there's information that's literally not in this letter, but you are going to get the piece of information which is options. There are 3 targets. The Frosted Crown, which is an upscale kind of bakery, patisserie for merchants and visitors. There is Hearthstone Bakery, which is in like a low end, very tight community, kind of poorer neighborhood. And the third is the Happy Ham, which is a larger, almost like factory-like place that mass produces baguettes, rolls, etc., where they have a storefront that you can go and like sit down and eat. But most of what the Happy Ham does is produce a lot of bread and baked goods that are then distributed by the Bakers Guild. So it's one or more of those 3, but the letter actually gives these blades that you've heard from Francesca is the dusk knives. It gives them discretion of which ones they want to go for. They have enough wheat that they could put something in all 3, but then it's harder for them because they have to get the material snuck in to each of those.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the mercenary group who are supposed to execute the plan, you know what they're trying to do and why it matters to the house, and you have several targets.
Oh, okay. So I feel like I need to know more about these mercenaries and what their reputation is, because if they're lazy, they'll go for the low end. But if they pride themselves on a good job, they'll go for the Frosted Crown. So I feel like,
Oh, sorry.
oh, you go ahead.
Oh, we also have like the kind of, do they want the high-end folks to kind of like lose faith in the house, or do they want a revolution from the ground?
So
Well, since Corvetto's a bit above us, they may like the system as it is. They may just not like us coming for their place in it. So
it might make more sense in that case, because they don't want a revolution to tear down the upper class because they're at the top, but having all the rest of the upper houses start stubbing us would definitely send House Lavelle back down.
right. So the Frosted Crown seems like it might be the most logical choice given what we've seen so far.
So both Kamei and Catherine still have recon/gather information actions that they're able to take before I'm gonna kind of mark the mission clock. So maybe this is where we jump forward to kind of Catherine hitting the streets. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. If there's something else that we want to retroactively decide has happened in the scene we're leaving, that's what flashbacks are for. Okay, so what does it look like as Catherine hits the streets? Where is she going?
Well, I think that the before leaving, there would have been just a leaning in to whisper close to Rix to just say, "Do not untie her."
Well, of course. Why would I?
But then, as I think, I have a contact who is a temple acolyte, but I don't. Let me sound this out. My thinking is they are not necessarily the true believer acolyte. Like they're the one, like that's paying attention and feeding information to, the people who are interested in exchange for the occasional thing that they would otherwise be denied as a temple acolyte.
Yeah, there are factions that are kind of in the overall faction map within the kind of primary religion of the city, which is worship of the lady, who is it's basically a two god pantheon where there's the lady and the lord, and the lady is associated largely but not exclusively with kind of like what Renaissance Europeans would associate as like feminine and femininity things. So she's a goddess of home and hearth relationships, but also like managing the household and money. And so the domains of the lady and the lord are fairly broad. And then there are other gods from different religions elsewhere in the world. So do you think this acolyte is of a temple of the kind of Ilrian religion or another one?
I think I would have the most familiarity with the Ilrian religion ones. And that's probably where my instincts would go. And so I think that's, but this is the contact that I listed as a friend. And so what I was envisioning is that I happen to have on me, as part of my special equipment, a quote unquote fine inebriants. And so what I'm thinking is that this is a flask that has been filled with the good stuff, and I'm planning to go down and let this acolyte, who's not supposed to, have a couple of swigs while we chat about, so what's up with these dusk knives, huh?
So your raid on the safe house was in late afternoon, early evening, and it's now kind of between like getting into mid-evening. And so this acolyte is Meifeng. Okay. What pronouns does Meifeng use?
I think I'm imagining he, him.
Okay. So yeah, I think he's got the robes, but they're like in really nice condition because he has the money to own several sets of robes because of doing some kind of intelligence backroom dealing kinds of work. So you could definitely find him at the temple, and I think you think you have this is an uptick. So Meifeng is a good friend, and so I think he would, as soon as he saw you kind of have somebody else take over whatever he was doing in like overseeing like an evening service and invite you into kind of like a back room. Do you think Catherine would go with other members of the retinue or on her own?
I think this is definitely an on my own. Like if someone wanted to come and hang out front, that's fine. But this is my good friend. They're going to be more open with me if there's not a stranger in the room.
Okay. All right.
And I'm definitely offering, as mentioned, to these fine inebriants.
Catherine, you always know how to rouse the spirit.
Well, as you know, it's part of my mission in life to make sure that my friends are taken care of.
Well, and I appreciate it. And of course, the lady smiles upon those that keep their house and kin, and toasts to you.
Right. Of course, as she should. So I have found myself in a position of curiosity.
Well, quite
And
dangerous.
Well, it certainly can be. I'm hoping that by inquiring a bit, we can make it less dangerous rather than more. And what I'm thinking in this particular case is that you might have the access to people who would speak about things that they might not to me, but to an acolyte of the lady.
Of course, when people are unburdening their hearts, they very frequently speak directly and in an unguarded fashion. And you know how thin some textiles can be.
Of course. And of course, it would be my goal to find any such individuals who might be tempted or planning to commit some heinous acts, and to persuade them otherwise before it's too late.
Is this something I should be worried about?
No, no. This is something that I think we've got some people punching above their weight, so to speak, hiring mercenaries and that sort of thing. Shouldn't have anything to do with you directly.
Oh,
But, and I kind of just offer the flask over again, and I wonder if you've heard anything about what the Dusk Knives might be up to.
Takes a long swig. Ah, you are embroiling yourself in some shady dealings then. Oh, quite some burn to that. Nicely aged.
Yes. Well, after all, I think in order to avoid getting yourself all dirty, you have to know where the dirt is.
Well, I do my very best to keep these robes clean in observance of the lady's higher purpose. So why don't you go ahead and make your roll, and
Right.
that will inform the kind of quality and how much information you're going to get.
Yes.
I think you're going to get increased effect because you're going to a positive contact.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I'm checking because you
So-
also have, when you go to a contact,
Mm-hmm.
even if you roll a 1 to a 3, you can use a House Lavelle ability that will let you get more like a higher result, but there will be a cost. So we can come back to that if we need to.
Sure. And so what I was also like using the fine inebriants, do I get a bonus for that?
Yeah, I think because you've already got improved effect, I will say that the inebriants will let you get +1 die here.
Okay.
Gear often does not give a bonus die, but I find that when there's something else that already improves effect, and I still want to kind of recognize or validate something that will give you an advantage, so then you'll get the bonus die there, which is
Okay.
nice.
Sure. So I have. I'm assuming this is a consort.
It sounds like you're presenting it as consort, and that
Right.
makes sense to me.
So I have 2 dots in consort, and then if I have 1 extra for inebriants, and this is important right now, so I think I will be pushing myself as well. So
That'll give you 4 dice, I believe.
all right, I think that's right, and I marked 2 stress for pushing myself, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so let's see how this goes.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, 4d6. There we go. There's 2 5s, a 6, and a 4. That worked out better than some of my pregame rolls.
Very nice. So as a note for the future, rolling more dice can be extra cool because if you get 2 6s or more than 2 6s, you get a critical. So you get increased effect on top of a full success. The 5s, unfortunately, do not make for a critical.
Sure.
But you got a 6 with extra effect. So you'll basically get a first question and then 2 follow-ups or 3 questions total. So go ahead and you can frame these in or out of character.
Sure. So here's my primary concern, friend, is that we have good information that the Dusk Knives are planning poison, cursed grain to be made into bread. That's something that I don't know about you, but I don't stand for that sort of thing. But we need to know where they're planning to put this heinous effect, deed into effect in order to stop it from happening.
Well, while you know where my primary activities for the church lie, it's certainly not good for anyone if people are getting sick across the city. That makes it harder to do business and harder for people to remember their priorities and their duties to the church. It's the red knot. If it's the Dusk Knives, you say. And poison. I did hear from a friend, that a set, maybe 5 or 6 dusk knives were seen carousing in a boarding house over by the Trader's Gate. And you know that the Happy Ham is close to the Trader's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
So I had not heard of this terrible plot. Of course, would wish to give you whatever assistance that I could, understanding that often my hands are tied, but
of course,
I would recommend investigating there. Is there anything else I can do for you? I mean, we still have some in the flask, and I would not wish to spirit you away, but I know that sometimes time can be of an essence.
Well, perhaps we let the spirits spirit us away, and I hand over for another swig and just say, do you know anything about, so just for my own clarification, the answer that we got earlier about the blade of the night, like, is that just a reference, like we had a loose connection to the idea of mercenaries, or do we think that that's also a specific person who might be associated with them? Or perhaps that could be the question.
Yeah.
Is that we've heard the title Blade of the Night in association with the Dusk Knives. Do you know, is that a particular individual that we're talking about?
Oh, well then, I suppose you're not familiar with Laerte Argus. That is a sobriquet, Blade of the Night, that he has been known by. He was an agent of Iberica, and we moved in somewhat similar circles, though he is far more inclined to the blade and I to the scepter and the censer. So basically, Mayfeng can tell you that the leader of the Dusk Knives is this Laerte Argus, who operated in Iberica, but is himself Altori. So I'm using like kind of Greek and Roman naming for the Altori people. So he was like a spy / special forces / saboteur. So like pre-CIA, but absolutely include the fighting part of being able to do like saboteur spy stuff. And he can give you actually a physical description of Laerte.
Excellent.
A fairly like tall, broad-shouldered man, has like a very well like waxed full beard. So like somewhat thick, comes down to a waxed point, and with kind of upturned mustache, very dashing, long limbs, and is kind of his signature weapon is a great sword, but is also very skilled with a buckler and messer in close quarters, since a great sword is not the kind of thing you would tend to want to fight with in, I don't know, if you're inside or anything like that. So that's a second piece of information. You get one more question with your great effect.
Okay, let me think.
Is there anything out of character that one of the other players might want to suggest? Though of course, like the decision will be yours, Christiana.
Oh, sure. Like, I mean, I could probably think of something, but if anyone else has suggestions.
Where's his lair? Like, where can we find him?
Yeah.
And or I'm also, well, okay, so this character does not seem to know about the happening itself. So we'll ask later. We'll shake somebody else down about the magic versus poison and whatnot. But where the Dusk Knives lair is might be
well
important.
So we know that there's a boarding house, at least, where some of them have been spotted, so that's a lead at least. But yeah, certainly we could if there was some other location too that might be of interest,
or any particular weaknesses of this person, because I have a feeling that
what
come to blows.
How about if this Laerte fellow has any particular things that he indulges in his downtime? what are, what are some of the weak points in his armor, so to speak?
Yeah.
Just putting Laertes' name into the chat so you all have it to reference.
Does that seem like a good one?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
So as you say, I'm just learning about this Laerte individual. I wonder, is he a devout man, or do you think he has some particular vices that trouble his conscience?
Well, he's not known, at least to me, as. That's my dog. Good job, Oreo. Oh, just getting the dramatic moment. He's very small, so he's not really easy to get on camera. Now he's sitting with me. Laerte is not renowned as a devotee of the mother. He moved into mercenary work because he proved a bit more bloodthirsty than the Iberican nobility was asking for. So if the people of the city are in fact threatened by this terrible plot that you allude to, it would not surprise me that Laerte would take it. He delights, I hear, I have not experienced it myself, but word tells me that he has a special love for watching the light go out of someone's eyes. If there is something you can do with that, the bloodthirsty are, as you might imagine or have experienced, follow their nose and their lust for destruction.
Well, also, I would imagine if, as you say, this is something that has been troubling for some of his previous clients, if he were to be found making a mess, that would certainly not go well for him, I'm sure. As far as future work or support from patrons.
I found that there is always someone willing to pay coin so that others may dirty their hands, and they care not how much blood has already seeped onto them. But if you can break the dust knives, that would certainly be a story of great renown and would earn you many accolades from the grateful people of the city.
Well, I like accolades.
Well, if you like accolades as much as I like spirits, then I trust you will have sufficient motivation.
Well, I thank you so much for all your help, and I'm sure that we can make sure that the next time the temple receives its offering of bread, there will be a little extra powdered sugar in there for you.
May the lady smile upon your endeavors, and don't wait before you come back to visit again. All right, so you got some very good information. Kim May still has a recon or gather information, and once that is done, we can probably put together a plan and maybe do the engagement roll. Right after engagement roll is a really good place to take a break, and so we might be able to get to that by 3 or just a little bit after 3, if that sounds good for y'all. Okay, so Kerry, what do you think Kim May's step is going to be in terms of rounding out the picture or seeking other information for the group?
Okay, so I have kind of 2 thoughts that I would like all of your thoughts on. One of which is clearly on a magic level. I think that we have an interest in what is the curse? Who cast the curse? What type of magic are we working with? Are we breaking the curse, or are we simply containing it? And then the other thought that I had, though, is because Kamei is both a shopkeeper, might have merchant guild ties to have access to like kind of how the grain would be delivered, and or which is an interesting, not as much of a arcane situation, unless we wanted to say that that was like a space in which you go to like discover to see if there were any traces that had already trickled through.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options there. If there's a contact on your sheet that you'd like to go to, or you think there's somebody else who would make sense as somebody that Kame would know, you often will get the best results during a gather information phase if you build on relationships that you already have, as we saw with Catherine getting more effect from going to an uptick. And it tends to mean that you don't have to deal with the risk. But you could also be going to Lavelle itself or anybody else. What do you think sounds interesting?
Okay, so I have an uptick with a member of the house, but I do have a downtick with an informant, which I think could be funny. Maybe not successful, but funny.
Yeah, I think informant maybe means that you're gonna have an easier chance of getting the type of information that you are looking for, but going to a rival may make it trickier or may increase the risk. I think that's how that would work mechanically.
Yeah. What do you all think? Do you think that's fun?
Well, sometimes there's always the looking at your skills and saying what would be the most mechanically effective, but then it can also be a lot of fun to say, what's my character's current state of mind? What would they want to do? And sometimes that's not the optimized move, but it's still fun.
Yeah, I say go for it. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a one shot.
Yeah.
We're good.
Cool. So yeah, we'll do that. And in terms of the background between the two characters, I just kind of like generated on the spot, right? Okay. I am going to say that since this character is called Ishana, I'm going to say that Ishana and Kame saw the same tutor when they were young, and Kame was just absolutely insufferable, incredibly competitive, and just like constantly trying to outshine them. And so now that they run in the same circles again, Kame just kind of has a reaction whenever in their space.
Okay. So do you think Ishana ended up as an informant for one of the other great houses, or for some other big faction in the city?
Yeah, let's say maybe. Actually, I might ask for your thoughts on that, Mike.
I think what's going to make sense here. Magical informant. So there is so there's the kind of normal-ish answer, and then there's the scary answer. And so I'll give you the scary answer first in case that's appealing in the spirit of destructive decisions. There is an urban legend in Ilrien that is the Tattered King, or the Tattered Prince. Nobody knows quite for sure who the Tattered Prince is. Maybe a disowned or bastard child of a major house, maybe a servant of the Dread Empire who seeks to return it. But what is known is that the Tattered Prince is an incredibly powerful knack and has large designs for the city. So if Ishana had the same tutor as Kame, and they were both learning magic, you could have a childhood rival who has ended up as an informant for a very dangerous independent faction.
I do like this. I also like the idea that like maybe what she's an informant on is just like she keeps eye on like all magic that comes with like kind of like types of magic that show up, and like people who are doing magic, and like kind of like just has this like huge magical network in this space.
Yeah, that I'm happy to roll with that. And so maybe Ishana has worked with the Tattered Prince, but not necessarily directly for. I think what might be fun is for Ishana to operate a fortune teller's tent on the plaza. So like kind of big, people come and people go all the time, people of all sorts of class. It's a great place to have your ear to the ground and not entirely unlike in a temple, people reveal a lot of themselves when they are getting their fortunes told or cards read. And so you could find Ishana at her kind of carpeted, very godly, overstated, kind of tourist trappy tent. And then there's a back room where you might suspect that she does other things. But if your relationship is tempestuous, that's probably what you would know in terms of like keeping tabs on her.
Cool. Sounds good. Am I allowed to bring Rix with me to protect me?
I think that's up to Rix, yeah.
Oh,
You're muted.
good.
That's what I'm here for.
Excellent.
I got your back.
Great.
Okay, so it is.
I was gonna say that like maybe the group has to suggest this to Kame. Yeah. It's the
So
best.
in theory, the rest of us are all still in this little cave, right?
Well,
Or have we just,
I
like,
did-
all moved. Okay, well, we all moved.
well, that's a good question.
You
Because
can be where you want to be.
Oh, okay.
so maybe Francesca has been dropped off to be supervised by someone else for the moment. Some other, like one of our safe houses or something, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could basically call a cart and have her returned to Lavelle to be ransomed. But that can be other people's problem to do that wheeling and dealing and taking a meeting with Corvetto.
Yeah. So maybe timeline wise, what we have is that we have the kind of like interrogation discussion at the same time as the letter looking at, and then we had Catherine go after that because she had some information that we gleaned off the letter when she had the conversation. And then maybe when we send Catherine out, we're also like, okay, May.
Yeah. It makes sense to me that would be happening at the same time as my thing.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Like,
That makes sense. You
all right,
also,
Rick, stop playing kissy face. Go help.
great. So you all, I'm just reviewing your upgrades on the house. So you're going to have some nice bonuses when you get to your engagement roll based on stuff that you have there, which is very good.
Oh my God, we're gonna need it.
Yeah, and I think CL, to your question, in a campaign, you could absolutely, as a player, be like, okay, I want to start the project that is turn Francesca into my paramour, and that's the thing that you would do in downtime. Those normal rules make it difficult to achieve during an individual session, but like the broader game, if I'm kind of giving a bit of an add to it, is absolutely the kind of thing, because this game also has specific rules for a tempestuous or not as much romantic relationship. So you pursue a paramour, and then the relationship, it has heat, which is measured on a scale. And then the larger the heat of the relationship, the more kind of secure and committed the relationship is. And there are romantic entanglements, and that heat can go up and down as there are kind of complications in the relationship, which gets very fun.
So perhaps if this was the TV show that we discussed, there was the flirty interrogation, but then as we're bundling Francesca off into the carriage to be dealt with by the others, there's one last lingering look of eye contact, to
And squeeze.
Very nice. So yeah, we can join Kame and Rix at the plaza. So it's kind of mid-evening, getting into probably like 9 or so, the equivalent. So you would expect that bakers are going to be making bread in the small hours of the night. So you still have some time, but not a lot. And the tent, as I described, is very gaudy and kind of has an open flap. And you'll find that that Ishana is basically is doing her own barker work at the front. Is like offering readings and like basically trying to cold read people to pull them over to get read. Like, your brother, how is your brother? And just like taking wild shots And as you approach, you see her strike out, where somebody kind of gives her a weird look of like, no, that's not relevant to me. She seems unperturbed, and then like does a quick trace, like kind of traces some fingers through the air that you can probably, because you have a special thing about being able to detect magic, you can sense that she's doing like a quick weave to try to basically get some like surface information from somebody. But then you know that what she's doing lets her recognize you, because she turns just before kind of the crowd parts to show you and Rix moving together in her direction, and then like kind of crosses her arms. She's wearing, I think, like lots and lots of layers of gauzy robes in various colors to kind of play up a like bohemian kind of vibe. Even though like you know that she's from Ilrienne, and so like that stuff that she's wearing is from like 3 different cultures from elsewhere in the world, and is kind of being shitty.
And then Rix has a little aside, and they're like, what did you do to piss her off? Not to stress you out, but
How many times have you not wanted me to ask you that question?
fair enough. Okay.
And then Kamei just like raises a hand and is like, hey, Ashana.
Oh, the great knack of Lavelle. What an honor you do us little folk coming down to the plaza.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Do you have a break coming up?
My door is always open to any who are seeking guidance, though answers have their cost, you know.
As they do. Cool. You want outside, I'm guessing? You're not gonna move, are you? We're gonna sit here.
Please make yourselves at home.
Yeah. Okay.
With the most insincere smile.
Kind of like, it's like, come on, Rex. But it's like,
Are you going to introduce me to your brawny friend?
Hello, my lady.
Well, someone has.
You're looking ravishing today.
Someone has manners. You could stand to learn from.
why I keep them around.
All right. So I think because of the antagonism, I'm going to ask you to roll earlier.
Okay.
Because the default is that you're just going to get snarked at and stonewalled.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Do I roll consort?
I think consort would probably, like, you have a relationship with this person. It's not good, but you can communicate as colleagues, and based on your relationship. I think if you were trying to get her to go farther out on a limb, sway might be applicable, but consort's going to be totally fine here.
Okay, cool.
So I think because this is a rival character, this is going to be risky position with standard effect.
Okay. I think that I will push.
Okay.
And then, okay. So that would be.
Are you on the right?
Oh, shit, sorry.
Tab?
I'm not.
That's okay.
Yep.
Just noticing my own stress boxes, and it's just like across the city, Catherine just gets the spider sense of like, what's happening?
Secret power.
Is that what
I
happens?
other people out.
When at like 3 p.m. I just like lose all of
anxiety
my energy.
spikes.
It's me. Okay, so there we go. Okay.
I can also add an assist if you feel like you need. I don't know how many dice you're working with now already.
That would be great. I have 3.
Sure, why not? Let's add another one.
I think we've kind of established the grounds on which Rix could try to kind of smooth things over.
Yeah, and what's great is like our background situation is that Rips helps Kane navigate less formal spaces. So here we go, right in action. How does the assist work? Do we roll separately?
So on an assist, they give you a bonus die.
Cool. I'm rolling then.
Okay. So 2, 6, 3, 1. The 6 gets you what you're looking for. And I think because of who Ashana is, like any questions kind of within the magic and who's doing magic and what kind of magic, those are all going to be fair game, depending on what you're looking for.
Okay, cool. And in terms of like motivation for Ashana helping us, like maybe it is a competing magic user situation that is like not beneficial for either of us as our scenario. I don't know.
I think so. In this game, we haven't touched on it yet, but as a retinue, you serve a great house. Paying for stuff in terms of coin is not really a problem. What instead you trade is favors.
Okay.
And so in a campaign game, I would probably say it's going to take a favor to get information out of a rival because you don't have as much of a relationship. It doesn't really matter here because there's not so much other stuff to spend favor on in the immediate fashion. But I think that's probably a way that I would communicate, here's a greater cost that's going to come as a result of going to a rival versus going to a contact that you have a better relationship with. So that's, now we have dog in corner.
Cool. I like the idea that Kane generally resists funneling any information this way, but potentially agrees to do that work for a little bit in exchange for this information. Cool. Okay, so I think that what we're looking for is like we have a curse that we need to either contain or interrupt. Do you have any idea like what type of magic it is, who's casting it, and what we would need to do to shut this down?
Sure. For details like that, she's going to need to know a little bit more about what you're describing. But if you're going to give her like cursed wheat to these specific effects, and especially if you say by Corvetto, then that's going to give her a lot of context that she can give you better answers on.
Yeah, for sure.
And what do you think your mentor's name, what the teacher that you shared, what their name was?
Let's go with Estelle.
Sorry?
Let's go with Estelle.
Estelle? Okay. And Estelle's pronouns?
He, him.
Okay. Well, as you would remember, if you were paying attention during Estelle's lessons rather than writing love letters to noble children, you would know that disentangling a curse that affects the stomach and the heart will require a silver wrapped sapphire, and like basically gives you specifics on the types of materials and the magical approach that she would recommend to using for undoing a curse like this.
Cool.
So that is going to kind of improve. It's going to let you declare arcane implements that are more directly applicable because you already have that information that gets you kind of a step ahead in that regard. But with a 6, you also get a follow-up.
Yeah. In terms of like guidance from the group, in terms of what we wanted to know, was there anything that would have been given to Kame as a preliminary, like especially from Dominic, our key?
Maybe how fast the spell takes place, like how fast does it actually affect someone once they eat it? Because then that lets us know how much time we have if for whatever reason we fail to, because the letter said like the plan's already in motion, so we may be too late, so we may need to know how long we have.
Right.
Before
Yeah.
the whole city.
Or for that matter, if we knew, like, is there already cursed grain that just needs to be delivered, or is the plan to find grain, uncursed grain, and curse it? like,
I
you
think
know, are we breaking an existing curse, or are we preventing them from casting one?
So the information that Kamei and Dominic gleaned from the letter indicated that the wheat, the wheat in the bags was already cursed, and
Okay.
that curse would persist into whatever baked good it was made into.
Okay. Right.
So yes, we probably want to know like how long does it take before? Is it immediate, or do we have a few hours, or what time frame are we working with here?
Another option would be like if we remove the curse after it has been cast, like what does that look like on the like population?
That's true, because
Right.
it could be painful to remove it.
One by one.
Well, yeah, or like, would it be
water?
well, yeah, or that's like, is this effectively like a poison in the sense that once someone has eaten this cursed thing, that's just it? Or could the curse even be broken after the fact like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good question, because we need to know if it's already in place, we may need to be able to reverse it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, do we have to have, okay, maybe in this context. So like, it's one thing to say, here is a sack of cursed grain and we want to break the curse on it. What if it has already been made into bread that's distributed all around? Can the curse still be broken on the whole batch? Or is it like, does the breaking the curse have to be like a proximity thing?
Ooh, yeah. Is it a core? Is it about the actual objects? Is it about like, is there a focus? Is it a person?
Yeah. So which which of those details are you do you think Kamei is most specifically going to go after here?
I think that it would be that kind of like the most effective way to cut it off from the source before or after it's been consumed. What do all of you think of that?
That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, sounds good.
Yeah, so Ishana can tell you, like, if she had some of the grain, like to be able to study directly, she'd be able to say more certainly. But the types of curses that could be laid on raw material that would persist into a baked good, the curse is already on the material, and so baking it does not remove the curse. So part of what the curse is to persist even as it changes state, both chemically and metaphorically, because grain, like milled wheat and grain, is not bread, kind of along a certain semiotic level, but so the curse persists across state changes, and which means that it also then persists as it becomes part of someone's body. So if you ate the raw wheat, it would have the same effect, and and things like that. So things that you can do if you remove the curse before it's baked into the food, then like whatever else, like if you uncurse the wheat, the food that is made afterward, it's totally fine. It's not like if you fully break the curse, that wheat becomes just normal wheat. So it's not the kind of thing where once it's cursed, you just have to throw everything out. That's maybe a simple way of doing it, but then maybe somebody else gets it. And I think with the information that you got about like the tools that you need to deal with it, plus your own arcane capabilities as a knack, you feel pretty confident that you can basically douse for this type of cursed wheat if you're in the vicinity.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so y'all have a lot of information. You've got at least one very good target. And so in the interest of time and basically being able to get some kind of finale action before we try to wrap between 4 and 4:30, I will suggest that we do an engagement roll and then take a quick break. And we'll come back to do the errand itself, though you've done a lot of the work at this point because you've made it so that you don't have to do as much like cleanup legwork kinds of things. because the way that this works, even if you get a roll that puts you in a desperate situation, I'm not going to say, aha, and then secretly your information was wrong and you fail. Like, it's not fun. So you're going to get to go do the thing. The question is, do you get there and you're kind of more in control of the situation, or is there something that makes it a more risky or desperate situation based on the planning that you have accomplished and what it prepares you for going in? So I'm going to find the page in this book for the specific engagement roll rules.
I think it's 57 of the PDF, but 48 by the page number. I was looking it up, so I had it right there. So the page number at the bottom says 48, but it's page 57 on the PDF.
Lovely, thank you so much. So this does major advantages and disadvantages, so it's a little bit different. And what I'm going to do is we're going to walk through these steps. And for any time there's a question, I'm going to pose that to you as the players, where you as players, do you think that this applies? So you always get one die to begin with, sheer luck. Then you might get bonuses or penalties. Is this errand particular, or sorry, let me roll back. You pick an approach. So for any given situation, you could assault, you could infiltrate, you could use a social plan, you could do an arcane plan, and the breakdown of the different plan types is included on the playbooks PDF. So the playbook for your individual, or the PDF for that, but I can write down these things in here. So it's assault, deception, stealth, which in other games is infiltration, which is why I said it, arcane. So if your plan involves jinx, then it's arcane. Social and transport. So these are the 6 plan types. And to do an engagement roll, you pick a approach, and each approach requires a detail. So for an assault plan, you need a point of attack. Where are you going in with your swords? Deception is the method of deception that you're using to achieve your objective. Stealth is where's your entry point into the place you're going. Arcane is the magical method by which you're addressing the challenge. So I think you've gathered information that arcane seems viable, but an arcane plan does not necessarily automatically get you past other challenges.
Right.
It just says, okay, this is how this retinue is approaching the overall challenge. Social requires a connection that can get you an in or can set up the context in which you do the plan. And transport is usually like if you already had the grain and you needed to get it back to House Lavelle to be uncursed by, on a timer, transport then maybe is more applicable. I don't know that it's as applicable here, but you all tell me what approach you want to take.
It seems like, based on what we've been discussing, that the primary goal is to find the cursed grain and uncurse it. So, I mean, arcane makes sense to me in that regard.
Yeah, I think it seems like our most possible option period would be assault or arcane, and I don't know that we are equipped to assault an entire boarding house of dusk knives.
Well,
and
yeah,
the grain itself will chasing it down will probably involve some assault type things, but not mostly. I'm just thinking about how we get the grain, and who's going to be in the way. And I think the arcane part is probably the most important final thing, because we have to hunt it down with the magic.
These plans are just the thing you go in with. You can abandon a plan whenever you want. So you can go in arcane, and then there's people to fight. You can still fight them. You're not constrained from other types of actions, just to be clear.
Well, so by that, so I think arcane seems extremely viable to me, but alternately, based on the information we have a location where we expect some of these mercenaries to be. So we could say, let's go kill those guys and see what happens from there. So that could be an assault. Or a deception could be theoretically like if we think that the grain has not been delivered yet, maybe we try to interfere with that plan in some way, but that seems pretty vague, whereas the other two seem more like specifically based on information we have.
Yeah. Are we operating on the assumption that the grain has not been delivered, just as like a kind of out of character moment?
Well, I guess we don't know, but the key would be, and this is why I was still thinking arcane, is that we don't know where the grain is.
Yeah.
We have a lead to follow, but we have people involved in a place where we could potentially go to them, but I don't know that we think that the grain is going to be at the boarding house. But then we also have the potential, right? But we have the potential target, but we don't know that the grain is there yet, right? So using, like, if we have an arcane means to locate the cursed wheat, that's where we want to be, right? Is we want to be where that is.
Yeah, I like the arcane.
Cool. Okay.
All right, Kime, you're gonna be up.
Here we go. I need a silver coated sapphire.
Can I help here? Like maybe I have like a book in my private study that assists with location spells from the Jewel Cities, and I like give it to Kime.
Yeah. So for the kind of engagement role, we're assuming that you've got all of the things that you need that apply here. The engagement role is a tool of abstraction that lets us skip over what in the TV show or movie would be like the 10 minutes of here's the plan. And instead we do the heist thing where you jump into scene and you flash back to this was the plan whenever you need to. Which I think is very fun. When Blaze in the Dark, the first game of this style, was introduced, I identified as like, this is what I want to use and never play Shadowrun again. Because in Shadowrun, I have experiences of 90 minutes of arguing about what the plan is going to be and very little time doing the plan. So Blades and this system encourages us to skip over some things. So for an arcane plan, you absolutely have the detail, which is, here are the magical things that Ishana says will let you undo the curse. And then you've got other things that will then impact how risky or not as risky it is once you get there. So is this a plan of going to specifically the Happy Ham to break the curse? Is that what this sounds like?
Yeah, like, I mean, if we think that's where the curse is, like, because the mercenaries are secondary, right? Stopping the plan.
An ability to like seek out magic, I believe. So like we can leverage that to kind of smooth over the where's the curse question, I think. Is that accurate, Michael?
Yeah, I'm not going to have you the engagement roll, get to Happy Ham, and then say, haha, it's not there.
Right.
That card is played. I'm going to show my hand here.
Okay.
So
yes, that's what we're doing.
Now that we have that established, I will jump back to the list. Is this errand especially bold and daring? Do you think among the things that this retinue has done, is this more bold and daring than what you've done before?
I mean, we're going to go shake down a storage house. I feel like maybe yes.
Well, right. Yeah. Like, it's a place of business that we are going in, like, to thwart a serious thing, but there's a lot of unknowns still.
And we know that there are going to be mercenaries there.
Yeah. So I mean, that seems pretty bold to me. We're forced to act quicker than we might because we have to stop the bread from being poisoned.
Yeah,
certainly bold for Kame. I feel like he does not always go with the group on the more dangerous, there's a mercenary actually there missions.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gets you to 2. Is the plan overly complex or contingent on luck or outside factors?
Well, it is contingent on it actually having gotten there.
Yeah, you had information that gave you a strong suspicion it's there,
right?
But there are still some outside factors.
Yeah, it was definitely like indirect, right? Like, what we know is the mercenaries were spotted at a location close to one of these places, but we don't know necessarily that was always going to be only one of the 3 as a target.
So that gets you back to 1, but one of your house's strengths is intelligence. And so that represents the quality of information that you gather overall. So that will get you back to 2. And then, is the target strongest against this approach, or are they prepared for this eventuality? Do you think that Corvetto is able to respond fast enough to what you've just done in routing their retinue to try to block you from stopping their plan?
Is this tied to our approach, or?
I don't.
Because like when we say, are they strongest against this approach? Like if our approach is arcane, I mean, their plan is arcane in nature, right? So I don't know if that.
I think they would get that, take that die back, but you have an ability that says when you gather information, you take +1 to your engagement roll, which you absolutely did. So that by itself gets you back up to 2. Then you went to friends and contacts to get information that gets you up to 3. And you did it several times. You did it like 3 times total. So I'll give you 2 on that. But you're going to lose 1 die because Corvetto is a higher tier than you. So even like the magic that they do is higher tier. And that kind of frames the context here, plus their ability to operate within the city overall, and kind of by extension, the Red Knives, who are also a tier 3 group. Your house is a tier 2. So that gets you back down to 3 dice, which is pretty good for an engagement roll. And someone is going to roll. If your highest roll is a 1 through a 3, you will start in a desperate situation. It will be very risky. If your highest is a 4 or a 5, you'll start in a risky position. And if your highest is a 6, you'll start in a controlled position. So I will ask somebody to roll those 3 dice, and then we're going to go to break, where I wave my magic wand and send a verbal note to our host Arv that we're getting ready to take a break, that I will cue in a moment after we make this roll. So who feels lucky?
Not me. I'm rolling so bad today.
I mean,
I haven't got a 6 yet. Go for it.
Okay. So 3d6.
3d6 for your engagement roll.
Oh no! That's a 3-3-1. Desperate.
Okay.
Desperate.
So
Yeah.
the cool thing about desperate is that every time you make a desperate roll, you get XP. It's not as applicable in a one shot, but this will be fun.
All right.
Okay.
I about it.
Between us players, I was kind of hoping for desperate. Desperate's fun.
Okay. So again, this is a one shot with Bag of Giving, a charity actual play series. This month we are supporting the Maryland Food Bank. You can check in chat for instructions on how to enter the giveaways that we're doing for donating to the Maryland Food Bank or to another kind of food security or food bank charity that you would prefer. Or you can check bagofgiving.org for instructions. We are going to take just about a 5-minute break so folks can stretch, use the restroom, refill their drinks. We'd invite you to do that as well before or after you've made your donation. And then we will be back in a couple minutes with the finale of this episode of Court of Blades for Bag of Giving. See you in a minute.
having fun with this one.
Yeah, a lot of what makes Forge games cool is the faction turn and downtime. And so we're really just zoomed in on the mission.
Yeah, Root really does that too, because I mean it's actually based on a strategy board game. So like the faction turn when you have time pass is a huge part of it.
And we are back. So thank you all for watching. I hope you are refreshed in whatever way you need to be. I'm Michael Underwood. I am the GM for this, our game of Court of Blades, a one-shot of a romantic skullduggery role-playing game by a couple of drakes. And this event, Bag of Giving, is in support of the Maryland Food Bank. So we saw some donations come in over the last couple of hours, and we are at $80 of $100. That is our goal that we were shooting for. And so we're very close there. And I will remind everyone who is watching that if you make a donation to the Maryland Food Bank or to another food bank or kind of food charity of your choice, you can send the receipt for that to us by looking at bagofgiving.com and finding the contact@bagofgiving email address. Email us. My colleague and co-founder Brandon is checking that address and working with us to update that. And we are going to draw a winner of some kind of prize right at the end of the hour or shortly afterward. And so if you have entered by the time that we are done today, you will get the chance to win the prize we're giving out today. And then we're going to give out other prizes at the end of the month. So if you are not able to donate today for whatever reason, but you would like to, note down that address for Bag of Giving, make your donation some point this month, email the Bag of Giving address, and you'll be entered into the giveaway for things like the Neon Hemlock novellas and some of the other prizes that we've accumulated. So that is that. It's why we're here. That's why it's cursed wheat, because I figured it's fun if we're able to have some kind of thematic association between the content of play and the type of charity that we're supporting. And it maybe will give you some thoughts or maybe bring up some feelings about food. Food can be very contentious for a lot of people. And charities like Maryland Food Bank can make food a little bit less complicated for some people as much as we can. And so in that spirit, we are now going to do something that's much more drastic and ridiculous as our dashing retinue, and it's probably 10 p.m. or so, fully sunset, night is afoot. Your couth has led you through the neighborhoods to avoid kind of drawing suspicious eyes. The Bravo has maybe thrown some tail of yours off of the side of a street into like the rivers that flow throughout the city, like it's Venice. Your key has avoided ambushes, and all the while your knack is doing kind of divinatory tracking magics to follow and track and find out the curse that you believe is being laid on the bread that is to be baked in the Happy Ham, a large kind of almost proto factory that produces a great deal of baguettes and rolls that are widely distributed to feed the people of the city of Ilrienne. And so you reach the kind of side ground floor door of the Happy Ham that some quick recon would let you know leads directly to the factory floor. And Kame, the kind of magical instruments that you're using for divination tell you that that kind of resonate with the energy of the curse that is incredibly close now. So that sapphire is just like pulsing with light, and you feel the tug from the seat of your soul where you do magic. And the four of you kind of sneak in through the kind of slip in through the door, and you see before you a fairly large kind of impressive situation where there's 3 rows, because there's 2 proto-assembly lines where there is the sacks of wheat. There are workstations with other ingredients where you go from raw ingredients into dough. The dough is proved, and then the bakers kind of knead it and work it into the various shapes. And then at the far end, there are 3 really large ovens, big enough that you can kind of get an arm and shoulder in there because they're having to produce stuff at such a high volume. And above the factory floor, there is kind of an overlook, like wooded railed overlook that seems like it leads to an office or something like that. And as soon as the 4 of you are inside, there is somehow suddenly someone with you, and the door closes behind you. And whoever was last in, that wasn't you. And who do you think is the person that turns around first to see who's behind you? Yeah. So Rix turns around and you are met almost impossible, like how good he must be to slip in behind you without any of you noticing. And for him to almost conceal his presence. As a fighter, you get a feel for when someone is close to your space. Just the way that people breathe, the way that they move. Maybe it's some inkling of magical talent that expresses itself through fighting. None of that. You got none of it. And behind you is the Blade of the Night himself, Laerte Argus. And then he whistles, and a half dozen fighters in studded leather with kind of blackened blades walk up to the railing. And there's about a dozen bakers who are now freaking out because you probably come to realize very quickly the knives have been here, but now shit's going down.
Mm-hmm.
So you
So
have. Go ahead.
So before now, it was probably a situation where like they came in and they told the bakers, "You're going to keep working until we say, but we're going to hide up here in the office." That sort of thing.
Yep. So we've got just about a half an hour. So I'm probably going to keep this moving pretty quickly. And what this is likely going to be is everybody's going to get to do a cool thing, and then we may need to montage a little bit to wrap up. I really love all the role play that we got to see previously, and apologize if this scene is a little bit rushed, but I think there's still some good opportunities. With the desperate situation you've been presented, who do you think leaps into action first to respond to this situation?
Not me.
So I have an idea that I don't know if this counts as a flashback or what exactly, but I'd kind of had in mind that as a backup, if we were unable to break the curse, I made some paint grenades so that like we could like mark whatever had been, like whatever the cursed stuff was. If we couldn't break the curse, you could at least identify what had been cursed. But in this circumstance, maybe this fancy guy with his stupid waxed beard gets a paint grenade in the face.
Okay. Right on. What action do you think that is?
Well, if I can persuade you to that either Tinker for having made the paint grenade or Wreck for using it, I would certainly be happy to use either of those.
I like the idea that wrecking his fancy beard is enough of a problem to address the challenge overall that is him and his fighters. So I think that's fine. You are going to be in a desperate situation, especially because he's right there.
Yeah.
So you're going to need to do this really, really well to not be answered with a blade in the gut.
Well, I feel like a blade in the gut seems like might happen either way. So,
I mean, like another option if you would like to keep your innards in. Like I mean, I am in the back. I am like closest in proximity. Maybe the answer is like I can do my best to hold him off for like a minute, and then, or at least like keep some space in between y'all and him to like pick other like quest related option. I think I have in my Bravo bonus things like my special armor. I can get a bonus resist if we're outnumbered, I think. Yeah, a bonus resist if we're outnumbered, and also like Captain America, I could do this all day kind of thing. So I could fight for a little bit while you guys do other things, even against Homeboy and his cronies.
I mean, so I think I was ready to do it, but certainly Rick's is closer. So perhaps I'm pulling out the grenade when Rick's already leaps into action, perhaps.
Maybe says go do like use the paint grenades for the original plan if you see the opportunity, or I mean, only because I feel like I would rather you didn't die.
Well, the hope is that I will hit him in the face with a paint grenade and not die. But
yeah, what I'd say is if you get a 6, you're just not going to get consequences. But because we're in a desperate situation, if you get a 4 or 5, it'll be
so. I am thrilled to go first, but it would also relinquish if you really want to have Rick's go first instead. You know, I'm happy to take the risk. This is a risky situation. We're desperate.
Go for it.
All right, paint grenade.
Yep. So a desperate wreck. I think the way that we're framing this, like if you sufficiently embarrass or dishearten him, that kind of contributes to the overall project of overcoming the red knives. So, but I think as a default, you're going to have a limited effect because the enemy is higher tier, and even targeting his vanity, you're going to be at a little bit less of effect. But there are ways to improve your effect. You can push just for effect instead of a die, or other things can apply that might give you effect. So we can look at gear or your special items.
Okay. I do have fine wrecking tools.
So what does that look like in this case?
Well, I'm thinking that's why I was asking a little bit if it was like a flashback, because in terms of having made these things, right? Because I didn't just fill water balloons, right? It's I constructed grenades with my skills and my tools. So that's kind of what I was thinking, but it wouldn't necessarily apply to the throw per se.
Yeah, and I think if part of this is getting Laertes' attention on you specifically, I would let you apply Party Crasher, where when drawing attention to yourself, take plus one effect.
Yeah, that's certainly true. That once per errand. Yeah, when drawing attention to yourself, take plus one effect. Yeah, I think that probably applies because I'm certainly making the first move to make him really, really mad. Ideally, this interfered with, but
it could also help give me like a minute to like maneuver around or something.
Right. Yeah. So I will certainly push myself. I have 2 for wreck. So that would how do you feel about the fine wrecking tools being part of having constructed them in the first place?
Yeah, I think like maybe fine wrecking tools here is like paint that's really hard to get out of beards.
Well, yeah. It's certainly, like what I'm imagining is that this is a non-water soluble, like thick, bright pink,
oil-based.
Like this is hot pink paint, because the whole idea was it needs to be vibrant in color so that it can be distributed throughout a lot of stuff and not be washed away. That was the whole idea. So
why don't you tick fine wrecking tools, and that will get you up to desperate. Great.
All right. So I am rolling. I'm rolling 3, right? Because 2 for wreck, and then 1 for pushing myself, and then the Party Crasher gives me the effect.
And someone could assist you. So this could be, does Rick's buy Catherine the split second necessary to get the throw off while Laertes is like springing to action?
Sure.
So what like what weapon do we see Rick's going for here as like the fight begins?
They're very fine. We said he had a great sword.
Here he's fighting with buckler and messer, and so the messer is like a thicker, short blade. So he's kitted out for infighting.
Okay, then I have a fine dread side sword and a rapier.
Cool. All right, so the kind of clashing of blades immediately. I think for the bakers, it's like no time has passed, and like suddenly there's violence and like a terrible ruckus, which gives Catherine an extra split second to get the throw off. Yeah. So for one stress on Rick's, Catherine can get another extra die.
So that's 4, correct?
Yep.
All right, I'm rolling. Okay, a 5. 5 is the highest.
Okay, so on a 5, you'll do it. So I'm going to put. I don't actually have clocks in this Roll20 thing because they're very hard to. It takes a long time to get them set up, and I thought that I already had, but I didn't. So instead, I'm just going to put. I'm going to do updates for where the clock is in the chat. So Dusk Knives, they're going to be an 8 clock to overcome. So you'll need 8 ticks of successes to overcome them. This action with great effect gives you 3 of the 8. So you're off to a pretty good start.
Great.
Go
ahead. I was just going to say, to paint the picture a little bit, because I think, we get the whole big, the door slides closed behind us. We all whirl, and Rix is right there face to face with this guy. And it looks like they're sizing each other up to about to fight. And then all of a sudden, just this bright pink paint grenade just explodes in his face. And camera pans over to Catherine holding the pin.
Very nice. But because you got a 4-5, there will be a consequence. And because it's a desperate consequence, and this is a one-shot, the consequence is you get run through by Leader 2 and take level 3 harm.
Well, I would like to try to resist that, if I may.
You can resist it, or someone can protect you, and I would leave that up to y'all as players. Because I know that the Bravo has an ability that will let them protect someone.
I don't think that I have any of those checked, if that's one of those.
Yeah, there's a specific bodyguard ability. You can physical obstacles being outnumbered. Maybe that one doesn't apply as much, but you as a character could protect a teammate, and then you take the harm on yourself, and then you resist it.
Okay.
So the way resistance works is for harm, which is what this is, level 3 harm would fill kind of the level 3 harm box. And if you have level 3 harm, you are incapacitated, and you have to push yourself to be able to continue to act. So somebody would get knocked out of the fight immediately, but you can resist harm. And if you use armor, basically marking armor on your sheet and filling up the boxes that's required, you could take level 3 harm down to level 1 harm. And once per consequence, you can make a resistance roll where you say, I resist, and then you roll dice to see how stressful it is to resist it, where you roll the stat that's applicable, so body in this case probably, and you suffer 6 stress minus the highest roll that you make. So kind of for illustration purposes, Sheree, if Rix stepped in to take that blow, you could mark armor to go from level 3 harm to level 1, and then you ignore level 1 harm.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I was doing that math. That sounds good. So I can very quickly dive in with my sword and rapier, or my sword and dagger, not rapier. My sword and dagger, and protect our dashing paint grenadier. And displace the blow with my fancy armor, and I Captain America that shit, and I'm like, I could do this all day, and so I can ignore that one effect with the bloody but unbowed.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is go ahead and mark the level 1 harm on your sheet. So under harm, there's 2 rows. So on one of those rows, sorry, why don't you write slashed arm.
Okay.
So normally it would reduce your effect whenever you had to use that arm, but you ignore it. It does fill out the space though, because if you have no spaces for a level of harm, it becomes worse harm instead.
Okay.
So if you have 2 level 1 harms and suffer level 1 harm, suddenly it becomes level 2, which is very nasty. So yeah, you kind of go back and forth, like he swings for your head with the buckler, you duck under it, but don't have quite enough room to get all the way out, out of the way of the slash. The armor takes most of it, but it does bite into your skin as you kind of skirmish with Laertes, and everybody scatters. So we could stick with Rix and Rix fighting Laertes. You have a half dozen other members of the Dusk Knives who are, like, a couple of them are jumping off the railing and others are storming down the stairs, and the bakers are scattering. So who's going to go next?
So I had an idea for a flashback where I sway the city guard commander of the potential issue and have had them on standby in case of a scenario just like this.
Okay. And you do have influence with the Trader's Gate, or what I think it's the Grand Gate, and that gives you some relationship with the City Watch. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So why don't you go ahead and roll that sway? I think it would cost 1 stress to do that type of flashback, because it's not nothing, but it's not unreasonable or outlandish.
Right. Okay. So and then I have 2 in sway. So
all right. So with a 6, that is successful. And I think what that means is, like, so you had a plan for this. What does it look like when, a handful of the City Watch enter the scene in some way? How do you think that happens?
So they do like all like heroic style, instead of coming through the door, they're crashing through the windows, they're scattering, they're making the Dust Knives scatter. And so it's opening up opportunities for Rix and other people to like start getting some stabby action in.
Okay, and I didn't give an effect, but standard effect will add 2 ticks to a clock. So now the Dust Knives are at 5 of 8. So 3 more ticks worth of success, or a great success, or a standard plus a limited will be enough to overcome this threat. And that's kind of how we'll comprise the scene. Like, once the knives are dealt with, you might have to do something else with the flour or the dough, but maybe that won't be as tricky. I'd love to get a moment with Kamei here, so that everybody gets to do something in the scene. And then if we need to do yet another thing, maybe we'll come back to Rick, so everybody gets to make a roll here. So Kamei, you can sense that the flour has already been used. There are, like, basically there's dough that's rising that is cursed, and there are baguettes in one of the ovens that are already cursed. And then you realize, maybe scanning, or somebody moves and you can see that there are carts to be loaded with bread, and there are more Dusk Knives. Like, there's 2 of them at one of the carts, and another one reaches into an oven with bare hands and starts throwing baguettes at the others to get away with the cart. So you've got some actively cursed bread situation going on.
Yeah, and that guy with some like very tough hands. We're not going hand-to-hand combat with that one. Okay, so So we've got what we're saying is we've got cursed grain, we've got cursed bread rising in the oven, and we've got cursed bread in a cart. Okay, we've got a 3-part cursed grain dough bread situation. Holy Trinity. Okay, so we have this silver coated sapphire with which, is there a way in which like I attempt a channel action here to try and disperse the curse within the space on all 3?
Yeah, I think if you were going to the kind of wider the effect you want to have, the trickier things will be.
Yeah.
So I think the tool that you have will give you increased effect, but you're dealing with higher tier enemies. So the curse is a tier 3 curse, and you're a tier 2 retinue. So you'd be at reduced effect, but you got the information to know exactly the right tool. That gets you back to standard. So it would be a desperate standard roll to remove the curse on basically everything that is already baked or actively being baked. And that would let you keep these dust knives from running away with a cart of cursed bread.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Question is, like, leveraging a special item a separate action from like your core action?
No, you can, when you do something, you say, and I'm going to be using X, and you describe how you use it.
Okay, cool. So what we're saying is that it's easier to just focus in on everything that has already been baked. Yes? And that's both oven and cart, or just cart?
That will be oven and cart.
Okay, cool. So in that case, I think the first step that we do here is, so Kamei can summon an arcane creature, and we are going to summon an arcane creature by the bags, and it's going to sit on the bags and kind of like hold them tight.
Okay, what does this creature look like?
It's going to be like a little fairy, but it has like little like clockwork elements to it, but it's all made of like light.
Very cool. Okay, so
And it chatters loudly.
that will get you up to great effect by having kind of another element that you're bringing to bear, because you've got arcane implements, which is the sapphire that you've already been using, and you're deploying the spirit. So that all sounds good there. So that would be a desperate great channel.
Okay.
And you can push yourself. Someone can give you an assist if we can, if it makes sense, and or yeah. So push and assist, or instead of a push, you could take a lady's favor, which is like,
so I maybe I could like if it, what I was thinking is that if Rix is, well, I guess we'll come back to what Rix is, but like after throwing the grenade, perhaps I'm chasing after Kamei to try to just keep anybody from interfering with what they're doing magically. So
yeah,
just
I think Rix is kind of busy, but they do have a sworn bond to protect them, so there might be some conflict.
Oh, that might,
emotionally.
yeah. So I think, Christiana, if you want to say that Catherine kind of, as soon as the paint was thrown, kind of booked it to go and start interfering, that's fine. You think you just spend a stress to assist, and we know that Catherine is over here, which then creates the tension of being able to be threatened by other dusk knives as Rix is facing down Laertes.
right. Yeah.
Okay, so if you tick the stress there, that will give Kamei another bonus die.
I ticked it.
Okay. So am I at then 4 die, because it's the bonus die for the situation? I get a bonus die for the situation. Did I understand that correctly?
So I think you've got a bonus die from the assist, and you got more effect from the items you were using.
Gotcha. Okay, so
So
yeah.
at 3, you could push yourself to get the 4th die.
Did I start with 2? I think. Oh,
Right. So 2 plus 1 for assist,
yeah.
And then you could get another one for a push.
Plus the 1. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll push.
Okay. So that gives you 4d6 on a desperate great channel, and then depending on the result, I'll have you describe some magic stuff.
Here we go.
No!
So
Oh,
I think what this looks like is we're going to do another reveal. So why don't you describe like the first couple of beats of what it looks like when Kamei is trying to like unravel this curse using their magic, and then I will cut in with the consequence
Okay.
or with the failure.
So we are going to pull out some kind of like some kind of situation with an insert for the sapphire. Hold on to it, fiddle with it. It starts to glow, I guess blue. We're gonna have some arcane vibes here. We get some little sparkies and like you have little pulses of magic come out from it, shooting out towards the bread. And we're powering up. So I think that that's probably where we break off.
Yeah. So as your magic kind of whips or whirls or flows toward the bread, one of the bakers throws off their cloak, revealing Ariana Corvetto herself, and she throws a hand up, and her hand is like wrapped in feathers and jewels and wire, and it like basically superimposes, like Doctor Strange style, a great circular shield that pushes back and breaks your magical attempt, and then locks eyes with you. This kind of like copper skinned woman with like immaculate hair in a bun with like extra fiddly bits and like sparkling orange eyeshadow, stares you down.
You know that moment in like Studio Ghibli movies where the character just kind of like does the like cat thing, the cat shiver, where like the hair goes up and then yeah, that's the energy from me right now.
So could I jump in here and be like, Ariana, I knew it was you. The city guard's here and everyone sees you. You've exposed yourself. Get this up now. We may show mercy on you, and do like a sway or try that.
Sure. I think that's going to be pretty tricky. I think you would start at limited effect, but you know, when you're in desperate situations.
I mean, I'm desperate here. I'm trying
if
to like.
You wait though, and like, so she's got homeboy Dusk Knife here. If I beat him first, she might have less support.
Okay.
If I don't beat him, then we're screwed.
Well,
but
then,
if I do,
go kick his ass, Rick, and then we'll do that.
Yeah, so let's jump back to Rick's. I think if it's okay, Sheree, that we, the audience, know that the two of them have been fighting this whole time, and so it's not just been this like 2 seconds of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And you see that Laerte has great range, like he's got like long arms, and so he is trying to keep you in that, maybe that there's a little bit of distance that he has on you in terms of his reach and his measure, and using the buckler to kind of keep you from being able to press in. And so you've been trading blows back and forth that way. So now what do you do?
So now I realize that I have to probably be a little bit more unexpected. Maybe instead of fighting in these this sort of military sort of arrangement that he's got going on, and outside of my own sort of like courtly appearance, my little court dagger, my my sword, it might be time to resort to something a little bit more unexpected, a little bit more fighting pit style. So things get a little bit rough. I think I guess we like, if we roll, I might have more things, as maybe I can get rid of that shield, and like scoop the shield out with my dagger, and I might lose my dagger too, but I might have a free fist to swing at if successful.
Okay, I would offer you a bonus die if no matter what else happens, you lose the dagger.
Okay.
Cool. So that gives you +1d.
Okay.
As a lady's favor.
All right, so +1 die, and we're in skirmish mode, so I have 2 die.
Yeah, skirmish is definitely going to have the greatest effect here,
Okay.
based on what you're describing.
And if this were a full game, then maybe Francesca would be my paramour, and I could be like, "Hey, honey, what if you like helped me out a little bit?" But not today. Everybody, just bookmark that for later. I think that's all I have. I have armor, but that's not relevant yet.
Yeah, so if you're still using the dread blade,
Mhm.
then that will give you a boost to effect. So you would be at, without anything, you'd be at desperate limited because he's higher tier. The dread blade gets you to desperate standard.
Okay. In my little headcanon of this, the dread blade is the sword and the court blade is the dagger.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the lady's favor will take that away after this for the bonus die. Okay. So that's 3. That's all I think I have.
Okay. Yeah, and you have your special armor that you can use to resist a consequence if depending on how that goes. So you've got some defense waiting for you if you need it.
Okay, cool. And I don't want to push for an extra die because I might need that stress to not die later.
That seems very wise.
Okay, so that's 3 total.
Yep. Okay, roll those dice.
Ha!
All right, on a 6, you basically you get it clean. So you gain the upper hand in the fight. What does it look like as you? I think you're at 5, and you have standard effect. So I think you can defeat Laerte, but the guard are still kind of scrapping with the other dusk knives. So what does it look as you kind of disarm, incapacitate, or otherwise defeat Laerte?
All right, so we get the dagger, hooks away the buckler. The dagger also flies away. But with that bare hand, I just like wail on him. He's so surprised that it gives me just enough time when he's like, "Oh, this kid just punched me in the face." That get the sword, and he's not cute enough, and I've already established that we are in a life or death situation. So sword just goes right in, up to the hilt. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you kind of you blow through his defense, you land a killing blow, and he kind of grabs you around the throat to just like strangle the life out of you. But before he's able to kind of lock it in, the kind of strength goes out of him, and he's then just like grasping at your armor as he slinks and falls to the ground. And I think we like there's a camera trick where basically as he falls, it reveals the look on Ariana's face as her kind of hired, as the leader of these hired swords drops to the ground, presumably dead or dying. And then we can cut back to Dominic.
Okay, now I could reword it. I'm like, Ariana, look, your forces are gone. They're dwindling. I'm sure your house will forgive you for your plot if you decide to let this go, and we could all go our separate ways.
Okay.
But surely the whole house of Corvello could not have known about this. So I'm trying to give her an out.
Yeah.
So if I can assist, one of my special items is a fine bit of blackmail, but in this context, I think what I could do is I could hold up the coded letter that we found and saying, and gee, this letter that specifically connects the dusk knives to House Corvetto could either go into your hand or the City Watch's hand right now.
Very nice. Yeah, go ahead and take a stress to give that assist. And Brent, I think you could take that as a +1 die or +1 effect. Right now, you would be at.
I'd be at 3 die if I take it as a die, right?
Okay. So you're at desperate standard because you already got a boost for Laertes being taken out. So you can get desperate great, or you could get desperate standard with a bonus die.
Let's go with, you know what, forget it. Let's do desperate great. So I'm gonna do the 2 and see if I could get the.
Okay. And did you want to push yourself?
Yeah, if I push myself, I get 1 more, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's push myself, and then that's 2 stress.
Yes.
All right, and then and then I can do 3. All right, here we go.
Woo!
Oh,
Okay.
Well, a 5.
Close.
A 5.
5. I'll
Really
take the
good.
5. Yeah.
If it was only those ones, we would be having a very different conversation.
Yeah, right.
That's where it suddenly would reveal the City Watch is working for her.
Right, and we're all screwed.
So I think she walks toward Catherine slowly. Like she's clearly not like aggressing, but she walks slowly but confidently, reaches a hand out for the letter. If she gets it, she waves a hand over it and it starts burns and like quick burns like it's flash paper, and then kind of inhales the smoke or like the ash and smoke, but immediately blows it back out down, and it creates this roiling purple kind of twister. And as the smoke dissipates, she's gone. And while she's doing this, like she's blowing it out and the smoke rises, she locks her eyes on Dominic and like speaks very quickly in a tongue you don't know, but Kamei you recognize as the old imperial tongue. And she's leveling a curse on you, Dominic, which is level 3 curse doomed.
Oh no!
Oh, so this is what I get.
And specifically, it is that when you need it the most, your tongue will fail you, your wits will be gone, and you will suffer my wrath.
I mean, fair enough, considering I just got fucked up a whole scheme, but
Yeah, so you could resist this, or perhaps someone could protect you. So you can resist this consequence, but otherwise it would be a very bad harm.
Can I do a magical interruption?
Yeah, I think does the knack special armor apply here, do you think?
Yes.
So that says expend your special armor to resist a complication related to magic against you or your coterie. So what does it look like as Kamei kind of, I don't know that you can, so with the special armor, you could take a level 3 curse down to a level 1 curse.
Okay.
You could then roll resist to get rid of it entirely, but a level 1 curse is basically going to be like, or the level 1 curse of this version is until the curse is removed, Dominic will have reduced effect on social rolls. Like that would be all that was remained based on the type of curse that it is.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea.
So how does Kamei protect Dominic from that curse?
What, like, just as a quick check, like, what can special armor like be or not be in this?
It can be an item that you have that maybe you already had given to someone. It could be you do cool knack magic as like defense or counter spell. It says you have this extra ability to do a thing. So what that looks like is up to you.
Cool. So I'm gonna say like that Kamei wears like a set of rings, and like kind of like when noting this curse, like heading towards Dominic, like extends his hand and like a series of lines just come out and kind of like create like a like design, like a slicey design barricade in front of him so that only portions of the magic actually get through this kind of like net.
Okay, so maybe that looks like just little wisps of the smoke slip through the lines, and Dominic, like you breathe in just a little bit and then they cough and feel like a frog in your throat. And so you'd have level 1 harm awkward. But there is magical healing that can be applied here. So because we are at quarter after, I'm going to go ahead and start to do our wrap up and summary.
Can I do just a really quick? This is an ask, I guess, for a sort of a button flashback of flashing back to a moment when we're still at that cave hideout, where we pan over to see Catherine making a duplicate of the letter.
Okay. Mark me 1 stress for that, but I think at that point you don't have to roll from it.
Awesome.
Very cool. Excellent. So with Laertes dispatched, the city guard is able to kind of hold off and arrest the other members of the Dusk Knives that are there, and they're much less interested in fighting to the death with their boss gone. And so you're able to wrap that situation up. The bakers are not so committed to Corvetto, or bought off that they're going to cause trouble. So we see a quick montage of Kamei, perhaps assisted by Dominic, breaking the curse on the various items of bread. Maybe there's some part of it that it's not worth trying to salvage it, and so it's just kind of destroyed. But we then jump ahead to a very quick montage of everyday people of Ilrien eating their bread or their rolls or sweets, and like their days go on and they're still happy and valued members of their community. So you have staved off this disaster. And we then cut to the kind of high table of House Lavelle, where Laura Lavelle, the kind of the head, who is like a 70 something non-binary, like super put together noble, kind of raises their glass to toast your retinue specifically for their extraordinary service in protecting the people of the city and representing the house well. And so that is the end of our lovely Court of Blades session. I want to say thank you so much and congratulations to all of the wonderful retainers for your good work. And so I'm going to check. I'm going to ask Brandon, are you able to do a quick drawing to see if we can award the giveaway prize for the signed book before we wrap up today? So as we do that, I'm going to invite our players to remind everyone who is watching who you are and what you do. So just really quick 30-second pitch or plug, and then I'm going to do real quick wrap as we try to select our winner. So we're going to start again with Brent, and then I'm going to write up that list again. So go ahead, Brent.
All right. So you can find me at Fire Magazine. I'm trying to lost my mind here for a second. The handle is at Firelit Mag, and then my personal Twitter is at Brent C Lambert. You can find me there. Also have a website, brentclambert.com. Looking for. I have a novella coming out from Neon Hemlock next year, so I'm looking forward to that. And is there anything else? Probably, but that's good enough for now. So yeah, thanks again for having me on here. This is really cool. I had a great talk.
And again, I am Sheree, or C.L. Clark. I am the author of The Unbroken, which does not have any Bravos exactly, but there are lots of sword queers. Book 2 has a Bravo, actually. You can find me on Twitter at C_L_Clark, CLARK. The Unbroken is actually, like, the ebook is on sale for like $299 and £199. So if you like do ebooks, go grab it for really cheap right now. Otherwise, you find me on Twitter. You can find me on my website at clclarkwrites.com. And yeah.
Cool. As a reminder, I am Keri C Byrne. You can find me on Twitter at Kercoby, Kercoby. Almost forgot how to spell that. So I'm right there with you, Brent. Spend your name, not this game. You can support what I do by going to augurmag.com and subscribing to our magazine. We publish dominantly marginalized and underrepresented voices, and we are the only pro-paying sci-fi fantasy magazine in Canada, although we do publish people from all across the world. Or wait until early next year, where we will be launching a sister magazine to Augur called Tales and Feathers, which will be a slice of life flash fiction market with no Canadian content requirements.
And I'm Christiana Ellis. Pretty much all of my stuff is just my name. So I'm at Christiana Ellis on Twitter, twitch.tv/Christiana Ellis, and my website is christianaellis.com. I stream Dungeons and Dragons and Root the Role-Playing Game on Twitch. Those are also available as an audio podcast along with the other podcasts I do. You can find links to everything, including the books that I've written, at christianaellis.com.
Okay, so I'm just communicating with Brandon. Brandon, you can go ahead and let me know who our winner is. And while we're hearing from that, I'm going to just remind everyone that this is a Bag of Giving one-shot. Bag of Giving is a charity actual play series where we spotlight individual charities each month, and where we can, we have like the content of the play of what we're playing line up with the charity that we're supporting in terms of some like thematic association there. We have already done one event, and you can find more information about Bag of Giving at bagofgiving.com. And that includes our schedule, where on Monday, January 3rd, we are having a reprise or second appearance of the Fall of Magic game, which was our first game. And then on January 9th, we have a game of Nightfell being GM'd by our own Brandon Crilly. And that Nightfell game is in support of the Reach Out Response Network. So we've got this. I'm waiting to hear a winner. Our winner for the signed and personalized copy of Genrenauts Season 1 is Triffity Matz. He is a mainstay on the channel here. Thank you so much, Triffid. And so you know how to find me. Probably the easiest way to communicate on this right away is to just whisper me on Twitch, or you can reach me by email. I'll make sure to get in touch with you to make sure that you get your prize. And I would say that if you did not win, but are hoping to maybe get your hands on some of those other fabulous prizes, you can keep donating throughout the month and send the receipt of your donation to the address listed on the Bag of Giving website. Otherwise, you can keep an eye on what Bag of Giving is doing at bagofgiving.com. And I have been your GM and co-founder of Bag of Giving. My name is Michael R. Underwood. I'm an author, podcaster, and Twitch streamer. You can find my stream at twitch.tv/turbotango. And I want to say thank you again so much to our host, Arvin Eleron, aka Gregory A. Wilson, who not only shared his platform and community with us, but ran tech and kind of all the back-end production for us on the stream. So thank you so much, Greg. I know especially that your Sundays are very important to you, and I'm glad that you were able to make some time so that we could do this. It's been an absolute blast. And to everyone in the Arvin Eleron community, thank you for the wonderful welcome and for your generosity.
Thanks
so much. Thank you.
All right. And so this is a throw to Greg if you want to do any wrap up. But until then, until next time, thank you all so much for watching, and take care.
All right. And with that, I am going to close up shop here as well. You will note that we did, in fact, reach our total. We did reach 100 out of 100 for the Maryland Food Bank donation total. So success, goal achieved, good work. And yeah, it was a great honor to watch that. And I'm sorry that we had to zip out of there a little bit quickly because I've got stuff I've got to get to as well. So I'm sorry that we had to montage forward as much. But it was funny because we had been talking before the stream about like, oh, we had never done one shots. One person had never done a one shot before, and then I haven't done a whole lot of this, and I'm excited and nervous. I think it'll be great. Blah blah blah. And they're like, well, if we're just doing a one shot, this is how things go. And I said, the thing about the just doing a one shot is that people play these things and then they tend to kind of like it, and then they're like, yeah, can we maybe do this again? So there may or may not have been some discussion in chat going on, in Zoom chat going on about like, hey, I wouldn't mind maybe picking up this crew again. And so this is how it goes. This is how it goes. You let the genie out of the bottle, and this is ultimately what happens. But this was a great pleasure to be able to do this. Let me pop that up there. This was a great pleasure to do this. It was a lot of fun to watch it, and it was really enjoyable. And so thank you, chat. I know that I'm usually not on in the middle of the day-ish, early afternoon on a Sunday either. But we made our goal. Thank you to those who donated. Thank you to those who made it possible. And of course, just because we stopped doing this particular session doesn't mean you can't continue to donate. And so definitely make sure that you check out that, first of all, bagofgiving.com. Don't forget to go over to the Maryland Food Bank, which is mdfoodbank.org, and support the Maryland Food Bank because it is important to do it. I loved the fact that we had a bread montage. I don't think I've ever seen a role-playing game with quite this much attention on bread, but I was all about it. It was great. So that's the kind of thing that you can also support even after the stream. Let me remind everybody as well, just before we get out of here, first of all, this is how the channel grows, exactly. It's the yeast we can do. Okay, I'll stop. Or I gotta stop. So just a quick reminder, folks, that if you want to know more about Bag of Giving, you can do that by checking out, again, bagofgiving.com. If you haven't done so already, also follow them on Twitter. If you haven't done so already, also please consider following us on this channel. We like to do a lot of stuff like this. We are the home at the moment of Bag of Giving, which is an honor to be able to do that. We have more stuff coming next month for Bag of Giving, and also we have another big charitable event that I just want to quickly mention, and that is this, an Infernal Salon run by Carlos Hernandez and C Cooney, which is going to be to benefit Patrick Rothfuss's World Builders charity, to benefit Heifer International. And so you can see the authors here. It is a incredible list, really, of authors who will be responding to prompts from Negocias Infernales, the upcoming game from Outland Entertainment of C Cooney and Carlos Hernandez. That's going to be this coming Wednesday, December 8th, Wednesday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. So please spread the word about that and let people know about the other things we do on this channel, which is not just charity stuff, a lot of tabletop stuff, a lot of story and narrative focused stuff, some video game stuff as well, and a lot focused on writing, because that's a lot of what I do on my channel as well. So rather than go through my usual stuff, this is a Bag of Giving day, and so rather than go through my usual stuff, I will simply ask people just to follow the channel. You can find all the information you need below on the Twitch page as you're looking at it, and I will see you lovely folks back here on Tuesday at noon Eastern, when we will be playing more of the game The Saboteur, and then over at GOG.com's Twitch channel for some Talisman Adventures sponsored by Pegasus Spiele, and then, as I say, Wednesday night for the World Builders charity. Until then, though, that is all for Bag of Giving for this month. Please support them as much as you can. Thanks again to Brendan Crilly and to Mike Underwood and to all the wonderful players for their work today. It was great, and I can't wait to see more of this going forward. Most of all, thanks to all of you. Much love, and I will see you folks soon. Bye for now.